will lead off. Now Pierre, as soon as Manny Ramirez was suspended, Pierre took his spot in the outfield, and although he didn't immediately hit in the leadoff spot, he did immediately start hitting, and hitting hard. As you see here, the last 2 days he's 0 for 8, and perhaps not so coincidentally, the Dodgers have only scored 1 run in the last 2 games. He is the igniter at the top of the order. But in the first 6 games after the suspension of Manny Ramirez, Pierre hit .480. He was not just getting hits, getting on base, getting things started, but he was also knocking in runs. He's driven in 17 runs in the 22 games since the suspension. That pop foul will go out of play off the third base side. Fontenot starts over, but it's well back into the crowd. 2-2 the count to Juan Pierre.
Well, Juan Pierre, again, is not an extra man. He's not a guy that you're putting in there to replace someone. He has been an everyday player throughout his career. He's a guy that produces runs. He scores runs. He plays good defense. He steals bases. He's an excellent player.
Knocked down, but he will not get the fleet-footed Pierre. Great effort there by Ryan Theriot. But Juan Pierre, if he puts the ball in play, he's got a shot for a hit.
And remember, the Dodgers paid a lot of money to bring Pierre over. He was going to be the guy. Then all of a sudden they brought Andrew Jones in, thinking that he could add power. And then, of course, Manny Ramirez came in. So he's been relegated to the back burner. But this guy can play, and he's never changed. He's always been a very good player throughout his career.
Pretty good production out of left field right there for the Dodgers so far this year. They've gotten their share of power, some speed from Juan Pierre, and some production.
Now Rafael Furcal. Pierre has in the past been a prolific base stealer. Not as much here lately as he used to be.
Well, I don't think he's been, because he hasn't been playing as much, on a consistent basis. I think you slow down a little bit in that you don't just go out and run rampant, trying to steal bases. But he's stolen 10 so far this year, but he's been caught 4 times, which is a little more than normal, you would think, at this juncture of the season.
And Furcal fouls one out of play off to the right. Juan Pierre, as Joe mentioned, with 10 steals this year, but in his career 432 steals, and he has been successful more than 75% of the time.
Which is a good key.
And he's that kind of guy that can steal a base when everybody in the ballpark knows you need a stolen base.
And back to the bag he goes with Derek Lee on the bag with him.
What you usually look at when you look at a percentage, 75% is excellent for just a normal guy that steals bases. When you're talking about the elite base stealers, you're looking closer between 75 and 80%.
Well, he was jumping away there, but Marshall moves him back to the bag.
No, I think Juan Pierre deserves so much credit. I mean, nothing changed in his game from when the Dodgers signed him to a contract to when they put him on the bench when they signed Andrew Jones. And then he was going to get his playing time. Then they trade for Manny Ramirez. He sits on the bench again. But he never hung his head. He was never a bad teammate. And he kept himself prepared to play.
That's right through the right side, base hit. And Pierre is going to keep on going. No play on Pierre as the ball retrieved by Milton Bradley in shallow right. Well, Furcal did not hit that one hard, but he certainly found a hole.
Well, that's one of the pluses you have when you're hitting second with a base stealer at first base. You're going to get mostly fastballs, and if you're a right-handed hitter, you have a big hole on the right side. You can shoot it through. If you're a left-handed hitter, you have the same hole. So the base stealer, the guy on first for you, can really help you as a second-place hitter.
And we have the perfect storm here a little bit. We talked about the problems that Sean Marshall has had in the first inning. Well, the Dodgers, one of the best offensive teams in the first inning, putting up runs.
And they are threatening to put up runs right away here with Orlando Hudson at the plate, hitting .335. And he takes a called strike at the knees. This is what you're talking about, Steve. The Dodgers' efficiency in that first inning, jumping ahead.
Look at that run differential. I mean, it's one thing that they score that many runs, but 33 runs on the positive side. That's good pitching early and good offense early.
Runners at first and third, the middle infield double play deck. A check swing. The ball knocked down by the catcher, Giovanni Soto. The runners hold. 1 ball, 1 strike.
Well, the Dodgers have great on-base percentage, and plus they get a few walks. They get walks to go along with their base hits. They're not hitting for a lot of power, but they realize we're going to get 6, 7, maybe 10 hits a game. We're going to get some bases on balls mixed in there, and we're going to produce runs. That's how they produce runs, by letting the other team help them out, being patient at the plate, and their on-base percentage excellent. and they lead the league in runs scored.
And that is too low from Sean Marshall. So it's a count of 2 balls and 1 strike now to Orlando Hudson with Russell Martin on deck. By the way, you got Pierre. We talked about his base stealing prowess. In the past, Rafael Furcal has also been a very prolific base stealer, but that has not been his game so far this year. He has only 3 steals.
Well, after the back injuries and stuff, I think he has decided that he's going to pick his spots a little bit.
That ball is a base hit to left field. Hudson knocks in Juan Pierre, and just like that, the Dodgers are ahead 1-0. 3 straight hits to start the game, and still nobody out.
That showed the patience right there, because what happened, he took a 2-1 pitch low, and he knows he's going to get a pitch to hit now. There it is. He gets the fastball, and he just rips it into left field for a base hit. If he would have swung at the pitch before, he probably would have hit a ground ball and maybe even a double play. But he showed patience. He knew how to hit with that runner at third. And, you know, when you talk about favorite players, this guy has always been one of my favorite players. And he was with Arizona. He just kept getting hurt. He could always play. He just continued to have injuries, and that's held him back.
Well, Orlando Hudson has been a key player for the Dodgers and their hot start. The Dodgers have scored a lot of runs. They've scored more runs than any other National League team. And Hudson is a big key to their offense early on.
He is, but if you want to figure out the Dodgers and who they are, this is what they are. They're a singles hitting team for the most part. They're second overall in doubles. Only 20% of their runs come from the home run. They get base hit after base hit, walk after walk, very high on base percentage. But a 370 team on base percentage, that's unheard of as a team. I mean, there are some clubs that don't have a single player on their team with a 370 on base percentage. As a team, they average that, and their philosophy is, let's get them on base. And the more we get them on base, we're going to run into some runs and pick up some big hits, and that's what they've been doing.
Runners at first and second, nobody out. 1 ball, 1 strike to Russell Martin, the cleanup hitter who has nary a home run this year. And that breaking ball is low. The count 2 balls and a strike. The San Francisco Giants are in second place behind the Dodgers in the Western Division. And just as an example, they don't have a single player who's played most of the time who has an on-base percentage as high as the Dodgers team on-base average. 3-1 the count. And that was your game, Joe.
Well,
on base percent. Get on base.
I think it's the game that you're supposed to play, whether it's mine or anyone else's. The more runners you put out there, the more pressure you put on the defense. And when you add speed along with it and good guys in clutch.
That one is a broken bat, base hit to left field. Furcal is going to be held at third as Soriano has a very strong arm. And the bases are loaded. They've had 4 consecutive hits. Almost as if they're giving us a graphic illustration of what their offense has been all about.
Sean Marshall is more of an off-speed pitcher. He doesn't have an overpowering fastball, but he has to command and hit his spots. You see Russell Martin stays back, hits off the end of the bat shatters, but able to hit it in the right spot, get it out there. You see Soriano charging quickly, gets to the ball. Larry Bowa makes the right decision. You've got a chance for a big inning. Don't run into an out with nobody out.
Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, out to speak to Sean Marshall, the 26-year-old lefty.
Well, let's look at the pitches that they've been hitting against Marshall. There's a little slider from Juan Pierre. There's a fastball away, which you're going to get with runners on base. Another fastball in, and that's a fastball away. And Marshall is just, I mean, most of those pitches were up, except the ball down to Furcal, but the other pitches were up. And I was just wondering if Russell Martin used Teixeira's bat when he broke his bat and hit a home run. He's using the same model, maybe. Same brand.
Here's James Loney, and that is too low for ball 1. Loney is the Dodgers' RBI leader, even though he's only hit 2 home runs, 286 average, 2 homers, 36 runs batted in.
I think he has a great approach, though, John. He hears all the talk about not hitting home runs, but he's not going up there trying to change his approach and start to hit home runs. He says, my job is to drive in runs. They get guys out there as they've continued to do, and it's my job just to drive them in. And he's been able to do that.
I talked to Don Mattingly about him, and he said he's going to figure it out. He's got a lot of young hitters learn to hit for average first, going the other way, and then they learn when to pull and how to pull. He said right now he's trying to hit every pitch. instead of at times looking for a certain pitch that he can drive.
This will be the 20th pitch of the inning already for Marshall. That's a bloop. Terrio racing out. Johnson in. Nobody can get to it. In to score is for Carl. Hudson will be held at third by Larry Boa. 5 consecutive singles for the Dodgers. And a 2-0 lead. Still nobody out.
But when you're struggling like Marshall is, you do not need something like this to happen. They're hitting enough balls hard. Now you've had a broken bat base hit, and now a little bloop in the center field. So that not a bad pitch. It was in on the hands. He ties him up a little bit, but he's so strong he just kind of flips it into the outfield. And Marshall again pays the price for hitting the bat. Broken bat and a jam job, and they have 2 runs.
Now Matt Kemp comes up. Kemp hitting .302 with the bases loaded here and nobody out. They'll still look for the double play ball. And that is a foul ball. Kemp with 29 runs batted. He got 5 homers, 4 triples, 8 doubles. He had a sort of I thought, a breakthrough year last year. And a lot of people around the game feel that this is a guy who has the tools to end up being a huge star in the National League.
He's still growing up and learning how to play the game. He played a lot of basketball as a young man, and I think his instincts are still developing.
The big curveball for Marshall in there, strike 2 call.
He has the tools, though, to be a very special player. He can run, he has power, he cares about the game, he can make adjustments and think on his feet. A lot of good attributes.
Bases loaded, 2 runs in, nobody out. Marshall with an 0-2 count here to Matt Kemp. Mark Loretta, another right-handed hitter on deck. And the curve, and he just got a piece of it to stay alive here. 0-2. The Dodgers, in the first 3 games of this series, scored 3 runs, and even then they won one of the games, but they had only 1 hit in 16 at-bats in those 3 games with runners in scoring position. That clutch hitting, which had been a hallmark of their team this year, was not evident in the first 3 games, but already tonight they've had 3 different base hits with runners in scoring position.
But you also mentioned Juan Pierre was 0 for 8, and he's the catalyst for things. He sets the table for everything that happens after.
0-2 the count. The high fastball struck him out.
And that's what Marshall is going to have to do. You're going to have to use your fastball, and you're going to have to try to get guys to go out of the zone and hit it. If you continue to throw sliders and changeups, they're just going to sit on it, and they're going to go the other way and maybe hurt you. And he did a good job with Kemp there because he threw him a couple of curveballs, and now he goes up out of the strike zone, and he gets Kemp to chase it.
That's the first swing and miss he's gotten from a Dodger hitter. It's because he's working ahead on the count, and he can't expand the strike zone to be able to get him to chase out.
And that's still the big hole in Kemp's offensive game. He strikes out a huge number of times. That's the 49th time he has struck out this year in 190 official at-bats. Loretta now double play would end the inning without any further damage as the curveball is in for a called strike.
Well, remember, John, with young players, you're going to pay the price. He's more aggressive than, say, Loney is. That's why he hits more home runs, but it's also why he's going to strike out more. I mean, you're going to get more strikeouts with guys that hit home runs, especially when they're young.
1 strike to count. Another curve down and away. Now, it's important here. This has the makings of a big inning. 2 runs already in, now with 1 out, bases loaded. And the Cubs don't score for Marshall. They're averaging 3 runs a game in support of Marshall. The 4th lowest run support for any starter in the league. That one down the left field line. That's a fair ball. Hudson scores. Here comes Russell Martin. Boa waves him home. 2 runs have scored. Stopping at third is Loney. A double for Loretta. And it is 4-0 Dodgers.
Well, that's a high fastball that he threw, but he wasn't way ahead in the count, and it wasn't high enough. It was definitely a fastball that's hittable, and Loretta's a good hitter, especially against left-handed pitching. And this pitch is up, and he just rips it. Excellent swing there, good balance. And he rips it down in the corner. You can see that ball didn't duck hook. That's why it stayed fair. Got good extension on it.
It didn't what?
Duck hook. That means that's a golf term.
It's a technical term.
It's a golf term, you know, duck hooks.
Well, a lot of guys would pull that foul.
Yeah, exactly.
He's able to keep his hands inside enough to be able to keep it fair down the line and pick up the base hit, a couple RBIs.
So you use that phrase, Joe, as if you really have a very intimate knowledge of what that really means.
I have hit one or two in my golfing career.
Here's Hoffman with a 1-ball, 1-strike count. Here's a look at it.
Well, you see, he extends through it. He doesn't just roll his top hand over, and that's why the ball didn't hook as much.
Infield is in, and Hoffman, the native of New Ulm, Minnesota, which is also the town from which former Major League All-Star Terry Steinbach comes from. And as with many of the athletes from New Ulm, Hoffman is a former hockey player. Pulling one foul right past James Loney. You might have thought he was in a hockey game there for a moment.
Well, that's why you lead off in foul territory. That ball hits you in fair territory, you're out.
Yeah, but he was still on the dirt. I think you need to get outside on the grass. You need to be wider, yeah, because your reaction time is not that quick.
Runners in second and third, 1 out, 2-2 the count. Now deep into center field. Reed Johnson makes the catch, but tagging up Loney. He'll score. Also tagging up Loretta. He goes to third, and Hoffman knocks in the 5th run of the inning for the Dodgers.
It's tough for Sean Marshall when he's in a situation where he could really use a strikeout. He just does not have swing and miss stuff. So the runner on third, less than 2 outs. Jamie Hoffman, good approach, using the big part of the field, trying to make contact, get something he can drive, and pick up an RBI.
So now Eric Milton, the opposing pitcher, in the rare instance of coming to bat before he throws a pitch, and he drives one deep into center, but against the wind, all the way back to the track for the catch, Reed Johnson. And the inning is at long last over. A nightmare for Sean Marshall. 5 runs are in. Now the Cubs with Alfonso Soriano coming up. Lou Piniella and his Cubs are trailing big time already in this ball game. 5-0 to the Dodgers before his team has even batted. This is his 3rd season as Cubs manager, and they've been in the postseason in each of his first 2 years here. Cubs batting order now from Lou Piniella, presented by Taco Bell. It'll be Alfonso Soriano, 12 home runs, leading off in left field. Ryan Theriot, speedy shortstop. Then Milton Bradley, his bat has started to come around now. He's in right field. Derek Lee, it's cleanup in the absence of Aramis Ramirez. First base. Reed Johnson hit a home run here yesterday. He's in center field. Giovanni Soto, rookie of the year last year, but only 1 home run so far this year. They need him to step up. Bobby Scales, 11-year minor leaguer. A couple of home runs in the big leagues for him this year. He's at second base. Mike Fontenot's moved over to third in the absence of Ramirez. And Sean Marshall, the pitcher, bats ninth, all up against Eric Milton. And here is Milton ready to pitch now. to Alfonso Soriano. The fastball is just off the inside. Milton, 33 years old, and a veteran big leaguer. He was many years with the Minnesota Twins, had a season in Philadelphia, was with the Cincinnati Reds, but had the Tommy John surgery. A high fastball that's popped up foul and back out of play. And one thing I do recall, in his best days, and he had some very good days, he was a very fine starting pitcher, but he always seemed to give up a lot of home runs.
He did. At 43 home runs he gave up in one of the years where he actually had some success. So he used to survive on a lot of high fastballs, 95, 96 miles per hour, but has gone more to off-speed pitches of late. Trying to redefine what he is as a pitcher. A lot of guys who get up in years, although Milton only 33, but coming back from surgery, he realizes does not have the same stuff on the fastball, and therefore has to use his secondary stuff.
There's Orlando Hudson, perennial Gold Glove second baseman, and Soriano is out number 1 for the Cubs. Milton, in fact, has the highest career home run rate of any active major league pitcher. He's thrown at least 1,000 innings. In other words, he's been around for a while and done a lot of pitching.
Well, he pitched in Cincinnati, he pitched in Philadelphia, and that high fastball doesn't work there. And again, he doesn't have the overpowering high fastball.
Here's Ryan Terrio. And ball 1. So we're seeing that fastball right now. That one 86 miles an hour. So that's not what he used to be.
No, he's been 95, 96, and throw that high fastball by you.
That one is a base hit to left field. Ryan Terrio gets the Cubs' first hit. I guess when you're down 5-0 and you're looking for a silver lining, the fact that it's the first inning, you got a long time to try and catch up.
Well, that, and you have a pitcher that can be prone to the home run. So I think you have to try to get guys on base, hope somebody runs into one, and start to narrow the gap.
Here's Milton Bradley. The sun peeking through between the upper and lower decks here at Wrigley Field. The fans out in the bleachers, especially in center and right fields, looking right into that sunshine. And Milton Bradley, the switch hitter, takes a called strike. Milton Bradley had a big year for the Texas Rangers last year. And you look back at that Rangers ball club, the guy who got all the headlines was the center fielder who ended up being the great slugger in the home run derby. But it was Milton Bradley, I think, who, if you're a statistical maven, you look at Milton Bradley's numbers and say, wow, that was a big time year. The on base percentage, the slugging percentage, and the OPS, the ops 999. That's big time.
When I talked to Ron Washington earlier this year, he said that they did miss the stability of a Bradley in the middle of that lineup, because he offers stability and consistency.
It keeps the rally going because he'll take a walk when you need it. He can drive in runs because he hits a double and keeps the rally going because he could score from second base on a single. Does a lot of things to help him. A very athletic player.
And I think Josh Hamilton, who had the big year last year, I think he misses Milton Bradley's presence in that lineup. Hamilton's had a hard time of it this year, and he's also had a lot of physical problems. He's hurting again. Milton Bradley down on strikes as the changeup there from Eric Milton gets him. Or an off-speed pitch, whatever it was. 2 down.
Well, there you see the changeup right there to Eric Milton, from Eric Milton. Eric Milton said the changeup is a pitch that he's added. It's the pitch that got him back to the major leagues. He was always a fastball, curveball pitcher, but while he was injured, he refined that changeup, and it's the pitch that got him back to the big leagues.
Here's Derek Lee, and Eric Milton with that slide step throws him a called strike. Derek Lee. And do you think we'll ever see the Derek Lee that we remember from 3-4 years ago, who was hitting 40 homers, knocking in big run totals, hitting 330, 340? He got hurt and has never been the same big-time slugger since.
Well, anytime you have injuries to your hands, you're going to have problems getting back to where you were. I mean, that's the problem that I see with it. He doesn't have the confidence that he has the quickness in his hands, and for a while when he got back, he was kind of fighting balls off, trying to keep them from getting in on him. and he was pulling off. He's made an adjustment for that, but he still doesn't have the power he had before.
We saw those numbers. 2005, he was all world. Hit 335, 50 doubles, 46 homers. But in the 3 seasons plus this one, since that time, only 55 more home runs. He's not the big home run hitter any longer. Fastball at the knees. And it's 2-2. Last year he had 20 homers. The year before, 22 homers. 2006 is when he first suffered that injury.
And he hasn't seemed to have recovered from it. He says the wrist is fine. You talk to the Cubs coaching staff, they say the wrist is fine. I think it may just be a confidence thing that he doesn't trust that he can throw the hands anymore.
2-2 the count, and back to the bag at first is Ryan Terrio. 5-0. The Dodgers are leading here in the first inning. He had a 5-run first against Sean Marshall of the Cubs. Eric Milton stayed to that big lead. Terrio looking right into the sunshine as he tries to get a look at Milton while getting his lead. On the fist, and caught at third. Timing his leap was Loretta. He speared it, and that's all for Derek Lee and the Cubs. On to the second inning. The same guys are coming up again. Juan Pierre, then for Carl and Hudson. The Dodgers lead 5-0. Here is Sean Marshall, hoping that the second go-round will be much more successful than the first. And his first pitch is in there for a strike to Juan Pierre, who hit an infield single that started a 5-run first inning rally. The big sweeping hook in there, strike 2 call. Well, the Dodgers were shut out yesterday, had only 1 run on Friday, and Juan Pierre did not have a hit in either one of those games. And now he is down on strikes, chasing the high fastball up out of the zone.
That's the only way that he's going to be able to get Pierre out, because you watched him in the first inning throw him a breaking ball away, and I mean, he got everything started by getting the infield hit. Now he opens up the right side for Carl, goes the other way, and he runs around the third. And make no mistake about it, it's easier to hit as a third place hitter with runners at first and third and nobody out. And Orlando Hudson drives him in, but that's what Juan Pierre brings. He helped both of those hitters behind him by getting on base and forcing things to happen.
Rafael for Carl, and it's a count of 0-1. We're seeing a different Marshall right now. A little bit of command, much more aggressive in the strike zone early. And that's hit sharply right to Fontenot. And out number 2.
I think for Sean Marshall, he had to regroup after that first inning and figure out what was working and what wasn't working. And what was working was his two-seam fastball, but he didn't use it very much. He threw 3 of them. You see 87 miles per hour, a little movement down and away there to Russell Martin, and then he jammed Loney even though it was a base hit. But the slider got him into trouble. The slider to Wampere that Joe talked about, then to Furcal going the other way, then up in the zone to Loretta. But the other thing we've seen in this inning, he's gone to the curveball now as well.
He's got a good one.
Yeah, but what happens, John, when you start the game, you're all excited and so forth. Now you immediately get in trouble, and you can't relax. Now that he's given up the 5 runs, you come back out there the second inning, you're more relaxed, and it's easier to pitch your game after you've gone in and sit down, and a lot of the pressure's off, so to speak.
So it can't get worse than this.
Exactly. Well, I mean, it's as a hitter. Sometimes, you're struggling, and you strike out a couple of times and say, heck with it. What am I going to do? And you just relax and play your game.
Terrio throws out Orlando Hudson after a 33-pitch first inning in which he allowed 5 runs. An 8-pitch, 3-up, 3-down inning here for Marshall.
I'm going.
Panoramic view of Wrigley Field from high above, courtesy of the DirecTV blimp. Get every MLB game in HD this season with DirecTV. Reed Johnson takes a called strike from Eric Milton. Johnson yesterday drove in a run with 2 down and a runner at third with a bunt. And then later in the game, he launched a home run. So he sort of played both ends of the offensive spectrum in the same game. He fouls one off to the right. Lou Piniella has been looking to really use a straight platoon with Reed Johnson, the right-handed hitter, and Kosuke Fukudome, the left-handed hitting outfielder. But until just this week, the Cubs have hardly ever faced a left-handed pitcher, so that Reed Johnson, if he, as you see Fukudome there in the dugout, if he had stuck to that strict platoon, Reed Johnson basically would have been sitting this whole time. Cubs, I think Jim Hendry, their general manager, told us before the game, their first 40 games they faced 4 lefties. That's it.
Now, Reed Johnson's valuable to the Cubs for a number of reasons. One, because he hits left-handers, but 2, because he's a high-energy player. When you play a lot of day games, You need those energizer guys, the Mike Fontenot's, the Ryan Terrios, the Reed Johnsons.
Johnson, they got him for almost nothing. The Toronto Blue Jays decided they were going to get rid of him in the spring, late in the spring of last season. And the Cubs said, man, we need a guy just like that. We don't have a center fielder. They had Fukudome as a newcomer for right field. They had been looking for a center fielder, and so Reed Johnson filled that bill. And then they went out and picked up Jim Edmonds as the season went along. The two of them played a lot out there. Matt Kemp got this time. Kemp, who has become a Gold Glove caliber center fielder, but not this time. Just missed it, and Johnson has himself a bloop double.
Well, he didn't get a good jump on it, first of all, John. And that's what caused the ball to fall in. He kind of hesitates, and then he comes full speed, and then he makes the dive, but he can't get there. And in fact, it wasn't even that close. And Reed Johnson, of course, thinking double all the time and hustling as he always does, he gets into second base with a double.
It always scares me when you have an outfielder coming in like that, diving, that they roll over on their wrist, and the way that Matt Kemp kind of cringed after he landed. He looks okay now, and he's not flexing his wrist, but you always have some concern that when you dive and the glove hits the ground and you come in, and there's the natural tendency you try to brace yourself as you go, and you see the wrist roll over, then the arm kind of goes underneath his body a little bit. You worry about the shoulder coming out of socket there, but he seems like he's gotten through it okay.
Well, thank goodness. Here's Giovanni Soto, and that curveball is in there for a strike from Milton. Soto, where has all the power gone?
I'm just shocked, John.
One homer, 4 doubles, 12 batted in. Only a .215 batting average. He was doing everything last year. He was catching beautifully, hitting the long ball, hitting for average. And he was on the All-Star team because he earned it. Nobody was better behind the plate in the all-round game in the National League than he was.
Well, he looked like one of the new young stars, young hitters coming into the league who was going to be here for a long period of time, hitting well.
Now, it's still relatively early yet for him to get it going. In the air to left field. Pierre drifting back, but he's under it. And Reed Johnson's going to test it. Pierre, who does not have a strong arm. And Johnson makes it.
That wasn't a bad throw there, though, John. He got rid of it pretty quickly and right on the money, but you're right, he doesn't have a strong arm.
Well, there are very few outfielders on which he would have even attempted, especially down by 5 runs.
Well, I was going to say the 5-run deficit almost says to him you need to stay at second base, but
not against Juan Pierre.
Well, not only that, I mean, early in the ball game, you play the game, you keep playing. Even though you're down 5 runs, you can't just sit and wait for the 3-run homer.
Now they could get a run in here without benefit of a hit. The infield is staying back except for Loretta. Over at third is Bobby Scales, 11 years in the minor leagues. And his first big league opportunity this year with the Cubs. He's hitting .250. He's a switch hitter. He's had 44 big league at bats, 2 doubles, a triple, and 2 homers. And that's a bloop. Cuts it out. And the dive and the catch in right field by Hoffman. And here comes Johnson, and he has run into a double play to end the inning. Jamie Hoffman made the outstanding catch, and then he cut down his man at the plate.
I mean, this is a fabulous play because I was watching Hudson, but watch how quickly he gets up, throws a strike right to the plate. Great job by Marshall to catch it and make the tag.
Yeah, Russell Martin blocked him off the plate. 5-0 LA. Takes a curve low for ball one. Now, you know, a lot of times you see catchers who catch a throw on a play at the plate, out in front of the plate, and then make the kind of the sweeping tag or the swipe tag. But Russell Martin is sort of old school in that way. He's one of the guys who will attempt to block a runner off the plate, and in fact he blocked Reed Johnson off the plate as he tagged him out, although he had plenty of time to do it too, because the throw was well ahead of Johnson's arrival at the plate. Martin hit a single his first time and scored a run as he dribbles it foul off to the right.
Well, Johnny Bench is one of the guys that use that one-handed glove. See, he just catches with one hand, uses that glove like an infielder's glove, makes the catch, and he's able to make the swipe tag all at once. A lot of times guys aren't able to control it, and you'll kick the ball out of their glove. But, of course, Russell Martin there did a great job of catching it and then reaching around and grabbing it.
And also establishing his left leg in the way of the runner.
Definitely.
But he looked like an infielder the way he picked that ball. A short hop coming in right there. Outstanding hands and reactions to be able to turn and make the tag.
And Russell Martin will sometimes play the infield. This is Fontenot. Nice play by Fontenot.
Take a look here at Russell Martin. You talk about his positioning, John and Joe, how he turned in to make the tag, but the one hand here, you see Hoffman come in here, does an outstanding job, gets to his feet very quickly. What a strong arm as well, but he short hops Martin. Look at the pick right here, like an infielder. Give him a nice little short hop pick to be able to make the play. Reed Johnson has no chance to get to the plate. He slides right into that leg, can't get his foot in there, and still has not touched home plate.
Here's James Loney. The big curveball from Marshall. Strike one. Loney blooped the single into center field his first time to knock in the Dodgers' second run of what ended up being a 5-run first inning. And here is Bobby Scales throwing it out. And 2 men are gone. 7 in a row retired by Marshall. Let's go to Dari Noka in the studio for a Sports Center right now. Thanks, Dari. I'm John Miller with Steve Phillips and Hall of Famer Joe Morgan. We're at Wrigley Field, Chicago. And that ball is driven into deep left center field by Kemp. And that ball is gone. There's very little wind blowing at the moment. And Matt Kemp has planted one in the left center field bleachers. 6-0 Dodgers. And
that's what we're talking about, John. See, he's more aggressive as a hitter than James Loney. That's why he hits more home runs, but it's also why he strikes out more often. I mean, he lets it go. I mean, he's not trying to slap this ball to right field. See, he's trying to drill this ball. He gets a good pitch on the inner half of the plate and just releases, and therein lies the power that he generates because he is aggressive. But you have to pay the price sometimes, and you're going to strike out a little bit. But remember, John, guys strike out 180, 190 times now, so I don't know. Yeah, right.
Who ends up being the better hitter, though? The guy who hits for average, who doesn't have the power of the strikeouts, or the guy who's more aggressive and hits the home runs but does strike out?
Well, I think that's a very interesting question because you have to look at the individuals and their approaches. I talked about Loney. He says his job is to get the guys in if they're in scoring position. Kemp's job in his mind is to get them in if they're not in scoring position. Their approaches are different. Now, what happens is if you're a guy like Loney, who's an excellent hitter, I'll give an example. Joe Mauer, let's use him. Joe Mauer, excellent hitter, didn't hit a lot of home runs his first few years couple of years in the big leagues. Now he's hitting for power. Roberto Clemente, same way. He wasn't a power hitter. He was a great RBI man, great average hitter, but he decided to go for it a little bit, and when you do that, you start to hit a few more home runs.
Nice play by Chario, who slipped as his foot hit the outfield grass. But on his second effort, he throws out Loretta to end the inning. 6-0 Dodgers.
And in part by Universal Pictures comic adventure Land of the Lost, starring Will Ferrell, in theaters Friday.
Tonight's aerial coverage is brought to you by DirecTV. Get every MLB game in HD this season with DirecTV. Mike Fontenot leads off against Eric Milton, and there's a called strike. Comes it down 6-0 now. Fontenot hitting 8th in the order, to be followed by the pitcher Marshall and then leadoff man Alfonso Soriano. Milton's allowed 2 hits, and ball hit very softly. And there is Hudson. He's a Gold Glover, and he showed why right there.
And that's a lot more difficult play than it appears, because as Fontenot was swinging, he was moving toward first base, but he had to round that ball. And watch the angle that he takes. He rounds the ball, gets rid of it quickly, and a snap throw. That's what you got to perfect as a second baseman, is the quick release, gets rid of it, right on target, and retires Fontenot. But that is not an easy play with a speedy runner, left-handed runner going down the line.
Now Sean Marshall, the pitcher, and he takes the first one in there for a strike. Marshall is 3 for 12. He's a pretty good hitter for a pitcher.
Steve, we're talking about which hitter, the guy that's an average hitter learns to be a power hitter. That does happen. Or you're talking about a guy that's a power hitter already that learns to cut down on his swing, learns to be more of an average hitter. I think that happens with both, and it's just a matter of their personalities of what they want to do. Because I think they both have to learn, and make adjustments to the major leagues. I mean, if you're a guy that strikes out a lot, eventually you're going to learn that I'm going to have to go the other way sometimes, back through the middle, or instead of trying to pull everything. If you're a guy that goes the other way all the time, as we're talking about Loney, staying back through the middle, you're going to learn to pull the ball. But you have to pick your spots, and that's the key. It's something you have to learn. It's not something that just happens overnight.
See, and I have found it easier to develop the guy who hits for average, and then you later learn how to hit for power, than to try to tail back, pull back that guy who's real aggressive, swings for the fences. That guy's hard sometimes to get to use the whole field. I think it's a much more difficult development. Those guys who hit for average from line to line, inside out the ball, later learn how to pull, tend to be the better hitters.
Here's Soriano pulling one foul. Soriano's a pretty good case.
Well, exactly. You're talking about right here. I like Soriano. I understand your point. But I like a guy like Soriano who's been aggressive from the time he came to the big leagues. And he's actually hit for a higher average, on occasion. But he's always been aggressive. So he's a guy that's going after the ball. So, I mean, it's just a matter of preference there, because I really believe that a guy like Soriano uses his strength to his advantage. I mean, look, we'd like for Soriano to cut down on his strikeouts and all that, but I'm just not sure he's capable of doing that, because his swing is very aggressive. He attacks the ball.
That is a foul ball.
See, and I think that's the point. It's hard to take that real aggressive guy and corral him to be a more patient hitter, to work the count, to shorten the swing and put it in play. Yet I think it's an easier thing to take that guy who has the short swing, who inside outs the ball, and later get him to say, okay, 2-0 count, look for this zone, this pitch, and drive it. And we're starting to see a Joe Mauer as an example. I think is the perfect example that you used.
Yeah, I agree that Joe Mauer is capable of doing that. I'm just not so sure that, I think Kemp is a guy that's still trying to find his way, but I'm going to be honest with you, I like his aggressiveness. See, I'm just the opposite. I like aggressiveness in my young players, because I do think I can scale them back. But it's hard to teach young guys to be aggressive. That's just my feeling.
That one is also pulled foul by Soriano.
It's interesting. I think when you look at Loney and you look at Kemp, it's a perfect example as to looking at those two guys and who's going to end up being the better hitter. Because you've got I think Loney is that kind of more patient guy who looks to shorten the swing and go for contact, doesn't really drive the ball at times when I think he should. And Kemp's the guy who tries to drive the ball at times when I think he shouldn't. It'll be interesting to see in the end who's the better guy.
Well, the interesting thing, who will be better is who's able to make the adjustment.
Yeah, right.
So it's just a matter of who will be able to meet somewhere in the middle.
2-2 to Soriano, and the curve is off the outside. 3-2 the count. I remember go back years with the Red Sox, and they had a right fielder named Dwight Evans,
Right.
who was a pull hitter, hit a lot of home runs over the big wall at left field at Fenway. And Soriano ends up drawing a walk here with 2 downs.
He's patient. See, he's learned to be
right
patient.
on cue for you.
He's learned to be patient. Yeah.
Another walk for Soriano.
You know what? You never root, but I was somewhere in my mind thought, well, if he strikes out, it does help my argument.
16th walk of the year.
Yeah.
See that one?
See, he's patient.
But Dwight Evans became a different hitter.
Right.
He'd been a guy who struck out 1,000,000 times,
Right.
hit his home runs, and eventually became a guy who he didn't win a batting title.
No, but he could do both.
He'd hit 290,
Right.
295, and hit his 32 homers. And he also would walk 100 times.
Right.
So he became an outstanding all-round offensive player. He was always an outstanding right fielder with a great arm.
I think there are examples of both, doing both sides. And remember, here's the thing with the Dodgers. Kemp, they only hit 2 home runs in the last whatever. He's got those 2 home runs. I mean, he's the only guy that hits the ball out of the ballpark. They scored all those runs in Colorado without hitting any home runs.
Scored 31 runs this week, sweeping a 3-game series from the Rockies as Terrio pops out to Hudson. 1 man stranded. No runs for the Cubs despite that walk by Soriano. What patience. Taco Bell. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Steve Phillips from Wrigley Field. And just outside Wrigley, there is the United States of the Cubs. All put together by Cubs hats. That would be the Cubs fans' ultimate dream, I guess. No matter what state you were in, a Cubs state. There's strike 1 to Jamie Hoffman. Hoffman not going to run his first trip to the plate with a sacrifice fly, and then he stole a run with a diving catch in the Cubs' second inning and then turned it into a double play. And there he hits into a little bad luck. He hit a bullet right to the third baseman. Fontenot, 1 away. Monday Night Baseball tomorrow night on ESPN at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. The Yankees and Cleveland. In Cleveland, ESPN News will be shown in the New York market. Then on Wednesday Night Baseball, presented by Smirnoff Ice at 7 Eastern. On ESPN, the Red Sox and the Tigers. Tigers playing extremely well. Josh Beckett up against Armando Galarraga. Wednesday night at 7. Red Sox and Tigers. And Jabba Chamberlain tomorrow night from Cleveland against Jeremy Sowers. As the Yankees were beaten by Cleveland today. The Yankees are in first place in the American League East despite all of the things that were going wrong. Their bullpen problems and A-Rod being out with the surgery on the hip and whatnot, as Eric Milton, hit by the pitch, goes to first. Juan Pierre coming up. The Yankees 15-6 since A-Rod's return. Not that A-Rod is hitting all that well, although he's hit the long ball, but their pitching has been much, much better since A-Rod's return. David Ortiz, and that's, if you know Big Papi, that's just a sad story. Only 185 overall, and they've dropped him to 6th in the order, hitting only 125 there. Matt Wieters, the outstanding young catching prospect for the Orioles, up to the big leagues on Friday. And Wieters with a couple of hits in his first weekend as a big leaguer. The Orioles fans seem to be intrigued by Wieters' arrival. They had over 108,000 paid admissions to Camden Yards over the weekend. Here's Juan Pierre, has singled, starting a 5-run rally, and he is struck out 1 for 2. Punches that one, and Milton gets back to first as Terrio tries to double him up. 2 down.
Puts a lot of pressure on a young guy, Matt Wieters, in Baltimore. I mean, they're thought that he's the savior there. I mean, great expectations. This kid has all the talent in the world to catch and throw, handle a pitching staff. He's going to grow into that a little bit. Big, strong switch hitter. You know, all kinds of comparisons being thrown out. You get Jason Varitek, Joe. People even have the audacity of comparing him to Johnny Bench at times. I know. But he's there's great expectations for this young man, and that's why people turn it out in the ballpark in Baltimore.
A big swing and a foul off to the left off the bat of Rafael Furcal, who has had a single to right and has grounded out to third.
There's only one Johnny Bench.
Exactly. I mean, if you ever saw him with his catching equipment on, just standing there, I mean, that's what a gladiator looked like. That's Johnny Bench. I mean, he was the best ever behind the plate.
Furcal with another foul off to the right this time, and the count is 0-2 after the '76 World Series. Johnny Bench had a great World Series, and the Yankees catcher Thurman Munson had an outstanding. He was their best player in that World Series. Somebody asked him about Thurman Munson versus Johnny Bench, and Sparky Anderson, the Reds manager, said, "Oh, don't ever embarrass somebody by comparing him to Johnny Bench."
Yeah, I mean that was the way Sparky would leave it.
This is Terrio. A long throw to first in time to get the fleet-footed Furcal, and the inning is over. We're going to speak with Joe Torre, manager of the Dodgers, from the visitors' dugout in 60 seconds on a beautiful night from Wrigley Field, Chicago. Field way out in front, 6-0 over the Cubs, going to the last of the 4th inning, and we welcome the manager of the Dodgers, Joe Torre, down in the dugout. Joe, many thanks.
Thanks, John.
Hey, Joe, you guys have the best record in all of baseball. What has been the most surprising aspect of the Dodger situation this year?
Well, Joe, you know, we lose Kuroda after one start. He was our opening day starter, and we pretty much had to piece it together. I think some of the surprises, one in particular, has been the way Ramon Troncoso has pitched. He's been able to close a few games out for us where Broxton wasn't able to, and you know, it's been all about pitching. We've been able to manufacture runs. The last few days we haven't, but we've been able to do some things with the bat, but mainly it's our pitching. Different guys been standing up every day.
Joe, with the Manny Ramirez situation and being out, how have you been able to maintain the level of success for this team?
Well, you know, Steve, the first day we knew about Manny, I basically told these guys, I don't want you to do anything different because as opposed to last year where we didn't steal, didn't do a lot of things when Manny was up, this year we just ran and did all the things, stayed aggressive, and didn't care if the fourth place hitter or fifth place hitter was the one that was going to knock in runs. We just stayed aggressive. I just didn't want people to think they had to do more because Manny wasn't here.
Hey, Joe, you didn't say you were retiring after next year, did you?
I'm taking it a day at a time.
All right.
Thanks, Joe.
Many thanks, Joe. Joe Torre, manager of the Dodgers from the LA dugout, and his ball club is ahead 6-0 as Milton Bradley leads off against the Dodger left-hander Eric Milton on 1 the count.
John, ever since I've known Joe Torre and talked to him as a manager, you ask him any question about the game, he always goes to the pitching. That's his philosophy about this game. He always goes to the pitching. When he was with the Yankees winning all those championships, I always asked him about when they were playing against a big offensive team. He said, I need my pitchers just to match up against the other pitchers and give us a chance. He very rarely talks about offense, hitting, whatever. He talks about pitching and defense.
2-2 the count. Well, he won all those World Series as manager of the Yankees, and there were a lot of gigantic home run numbers being put up around baseball by individuals at that time. None of them played for the Yankees.
Right.
They had years where they won well over 100 games, and nobody hit more than 28 home runs in that ball club. But they had the pitching, they had the bullpen, the defense, the whole package. As Bradley is retired, one away, now Derek Lee will come up. The Dodgers pitching, talking about their offense, and they're not hitting home runs. They're missing Manny Ramirez, who's been suspended, but their pitching, I think, has been a big surprise. A lot of people felt that that was going to be the Achilles heel for the Dodgers this year.
Most people definitely thought that when they were trying to pick who was going to win the West. You know, I've always felt that the Dodgers were the best team in the West, and mainly because of Joe Torre being there. I know how Joe Torre is able to manage players.
Derek Lee, right center field, hit well, but Matt Kemp is there on the warning track. And he went against the wind on that one.
You know, I picked the Dodgers to win as well, but their pitching worried me a little bit. I thought they had enough, but barely enough. But I've been surprised. I mean, they lost Kuroda on opening day, and they've been able to sustain that. I mean, Eric Stoltz got some wins. We see Eric Milton getting it done here. And in the bullpen, I mean, Corey Wade, who was so effective for them last year, has really struggled. And Ramon Troncoso's gotten it done. Ronald Belisario gotten it done. Young guys have just stepped in. But one of the issues they have, their starting pitchers have not gone deep into the game. So they're in that bullpen a lot. And the question is, can they sustain it, this level of success?
Reed Johnson, the hitter, and a fastball in there for a called strike. Johnson hit a double. His first time a bloop that he hustled into a double. But also it eventually got thrown out at the plate by Jamie Hoffman, trying to score after Hoffman made a diving catch of a fly ball into shallow right field. And with the club down to 5-0, it was a pretty big risk by Reed Johnson, and it did not pay off. 1 ball and 1 strike to Reed Johnson. 2 down, nobody on here in the Cubs' 4th inning. Eric Milton on the mound for the Dodgers. And he catches the outside with that changeup for a strike. 2-2. Here's the play. Johnson was at third. The ball was hit by Bobby Scales, and Jamie Hoffman made a fabulous play.
Well, the key to that play was how quickly he got up and then got rid of the ball and made a strong and accurate throw, and then Russell Martin picked it and blocked the plate at the same time. You know, you were talking about their bullpen. I talked to Joe today, and he's got a plan. I mean, that's why I say he's such a great manager. What he's going to use, Clayton Kershaw is going to pick up some of those relief roles for a while. They want to give him some extra time so that his innings do not mount up over the course of the season. And even, you know, say tomorrow when Kuroda pitches, if Kuroda pitches 5 innings, he's probably going to bring in Kershaw to try to get, you know, toward to the back part of the bullpen. If he doesn't, he'll save him. But he's aware of the fact that bullpen has been used a lot, and he's got a game plan to give them some rest.
Kershaw has already flown back to LA. The Dodgers play tomorrow night at home with Kuroda scheduled, but Kershaw will. The idea will be that he'll be well rested and ready to go. But he's been in the starting rotation up till tonight, made 10 starts. Some of them have been spectacular. He's the young buck in that starting rotation, along with Chad Billingsley, who's been the ace. There is Hudson in the air. The throw too late. Reed Johnson just too fast for him, but that was quite an effort by Orlando Hudson.
He looks a little like Joe Morgan right now.
No, I could never throw it that far, but I have to tell you, that was an excellent play. I mean, he ranged way into the outfield, got rid of it. I mean, this is the tough. See, he can't charge it because of the big hop. He has to go back and get it. And again, not quick enough to get Reed Johnson at first base. But that is a Gold Glove second baseman play right there.
He is so athletic. Larry Boas just says he brings so much energy. He's always chirping around the batting cage and keeps the guys going.
Now Giovanni Soto flied out deep to left his first time. Fly ball to right field this time. Jamie Hoffman. And just like that, the inning is over. In 60 seconds, we'll visit with Lou Piniella, Cubs manager from the Chicago dugout. 6-0 Dodgers. And we welcome the manager of the Cubs, Lou Piniella, from the dugout. Lou, many thanks for coming on.
Thanks, fellas. How you guys doing?
Good. Hey, Lou, Sean Marshall had a rough start, but he's pitching well now. What was the problem in the first inning?
Well, first of all, the Dodgers got a few of the seeing eye hit variety base hits, but look, that's part of the game. What I thought, I mentioned it to our pitching coach, he never used his breaking ball. He threw nothing but fastballs and straight changeups, and part of his repertoire is a good curveball, and he needs that. He didn't use it, and he got hit some.
Lou, what about your guys' offense this year? Certainly has been sluggish compared to last season. What's going to be the key to get this Cubs offense going?
That's a good question, Steve. You know, we've shown some signs lately of waking up and scoring some runs. We got to get more consistent with it. There's no question about it. We need our big people to hit. We need to get Ramirez healthy and in the lineup. He's our fourth hitter, and he's been our big RBI guy. But look, it's a team game, and just because one guy gets hurt doesn't mean anybody else can't pick up the slack. So we just got to get more consistent with it. I think we will.
Lou, many thanks.
Thanks.
Lou Piniella, fourth leading winner among all active Major League managers. And the big curveball from Sean Marshall in there for a strike to Orlando Hudson.
You know, you quoted Sparky Anderson about Johnny Bench. I'm going to quote him again. Sparky Anderson used to say, if my big guys don't hit, we're not going to win. And I think that's what Lou is thinking. If he can get Ramirez back, Derek Lee, and Bradley to do what they're capable of doing, then everything else will fall into place.
Bobby Scales catching that pop up off the bat of Orlando Hudson, who is now 1 for 3. One away.
See Aramis Ramirez there and how well he was swinging the bat when he ended up getting hurt. And since then, they have struggled. Bobby Scales, Ryan Friel, like Fontenot have just not swung the bat. A 175 batting average, 270 slugging percentage, 7 runs driven in those 19 games. So a vacuum at third base right now offensively.
Now the cleanup man, Russell Martin. And a changeup off the outside for ball 1. Martin got a broken back single his first time. grounded out to third in the third inning. He's 1 for 2. Dodgers lead 6-0 in the fifth inning here at Wrigley. And the Cubs bullpen is going to spring into action again. Jose Ascanio, a right-hander, has just now, you saw his first warm-up pitch. One out, nobody on. James Loney on deck. Marshall is due up third in the last half of this inning. And the ball is off the outside. The sinking fastball to Martin.
I talked to Jim Henry, the Cubs general manager, about third base and Ramirez, and he said, listen, it's the one position we didn't have the kind of protection that you'd like to have. He said, you know, if Derek Lee went down, we have Micah Hoffpower. He said, but without Mark DeRosa still on the team, they traded him this offseason, they didn't have that typical replacement at third base. Plus, Ramirez is their best hitter.
Well, when you look at the numbers, and they've tried to mix and match, platoon and whatever, that's what the Dodgers didn't have to do when Manny Ramirez went away. They had a guy over there that was an everyday player in Juan Pierre, and they just slotted him in, and he's been playing well since. When you lose a big bat, normally you have to platoon just to try to make up for some of the offense, and the Cubs have not been able to do that.
Here's James Loney. That's the other sort of problem for the Cubs right now in terms of adding payroll, looking for help. They're in the final stages of a big sale of the Cubs, and they're not going to be taking on any added salaries right now until that deal is done, as Loney belts one into the gap in right center field into the ivy. Martin to third, being waved home. He'll score easily on a double by James Loney. 7-0 Dodgers. Second RBI of the game for Loney.
And that's how he's been getting RBIs, base hits. He hasn't been hitting the ball out of the ballpark, but when they get out there, he's been able to pick them up. And I mean, that's just a solid line drive up the gap in right center field. And as you mentioned, Russell Martin able to score easily. Well, they tried to get in on him again. They jammed him in the first inning, and he hit a little pop-up. He extends the bat out there, gets the head out on it, and drives it up the gap.
Loney's 11th double of the year. He's got 38 RBIs, and he has apparently knocked Sean Marshall out of this game with Matt Kemp, who homered his last time. A right-handed hitter coming up. Lou Piniella. There's Kemp. Piniella on his way to the mound. He's got Ascanio, the right-hander, getting ready in the bullpen. And now the home plate umpire, Rob Drake, is going to go out and ask Piniella what he's got in mind. And Piniella says, oh, I want that right-hander. Ascanio will come in to face Matt Kemp, runner at second. The Dodgers leading 7-0. owned the night up till now. 7-0 ahead in the top of the 5th inning with 1 out. It now knocked the Cubs starter Marshall out of the game, and there is Jose Ascanio in the game now. His 6th big league appearance of the year. 3.86 ERA. Runner at second, Loney. Kemp, who homered his last time, the hitter. And the curve is off the outside for ball 1. Ascanio 7 innings, 7 hits allowed, 8 strikeouts, 2 walks. Kemp struck out in the 1st inning and then launched a home run to left center in the 3rd. Rips a base hit to left field here. One hop to Soriano's got the strong arm, and Boa puts up a stop sign there for Loney. Runners at 1st and 3rd with 1 out.
Well, John, maybe both of these guys have it figured out. Loney and Kemp.
Well, Loney has a single and a double and 2 RBIs. Kemp, a homer and a single with an RBI. Both 2 for 3. Here's Loretta. He hit a 2-run double in the 1st inning with the bases loaded. It made it a 4-0 Dodgers lead. They scored 5 runs in the 1st inning without benefit of a home run. Middle infield, double play depth, and a strike call to the outside.
The one thing about this Dodger lineup, they have professional at bat after professional at bat. They don't have great power. They have some speed, but they have depth to the lineup where they just don't have any major hole.
And it is strike 2. Tonight's aerial coverage is brought to you by DirecTV. Get every Major League game in HD this season with DirecTV. And there's the beautiful view of this very picturesque and very historic ballpark, Wrigley Field, with lights now. And if we had started Sunday Night Baseball back in the 80s, we never could have done a game at Wrigley. Loretta, there's the pickoff throw to first. Diving safely back is Kemp. That's another part of Kemp's game. He does have speed, and he leads the Dodgers with 11 steals. He's only been caught twice.
Still be running this at the 7-0 now, Joe?
Yeah, I think they do. I mean, that's the way the Dodgers play. I mean, that's their game. And remember, you are in Wrigley Field. Looping a blast, and the Cubs are right back in it. I think they're just trying to add on. Now, I think if you were ahead 7-0 in the 8th inning, you may want to stop. But I mean, we're just halfway through the ball game. We're not even halfway through. It's the 5th inning with 1 out.
Loney at 3rd, Kemp at 1st. And the fastball is popped foul onto the rooftop by Loretta. 2 balls, 2 strikes.
That's an interesting concept anyway, Steve. I heard years ago when I first got to the big leagues, because I would never steal a base when we got more than 4 runs ahead. That was just my philosophy. And the guy said to me, well, why do you stop? I said, well, because I don't think I should. He said, well, the home run hitters don't stop trying to hit home runs, do they? He said, if that's your game, you're supposed to play your game. I didn't listen to him, but, but I heard him.
Because at some point you may get hit in the head.
I heard what he said, but I wasn't listening.
So I would have given you a little more flexibility than 4 runs. I would have said maybe 6 runs.
Sparky used to argue with me the same way, that 4 wasn't that too many, but I just felt like they needed a grand slam to tie us. If you can't hold it, then it's not my problem. But I feel like stealing bases is dangerous. There are a lot of things can happen. I mean, you're a everyday player. You can get hurt diving back to first. You can get hurt going to second. There's so many things can happen. You play the game, to me, is to win each and every game, not just to add to numbers.
Kemp is running. Strike 3 called. Throw down to second base, and it bounces away, and that will get a run home. Bobby Scales could not handle the low throw from Soto. It might have even hit Matt Kemp and been kicked away as Loney ends up scoring on a double steal.
Well, you see the jump there by Matt Kemp. He peeks in to see if the ball's coming through, but Soto has not been throwing the ball. He had a shoulder injury back in April, and he has not been throwing the ball this year anywhere close to what he did last year. The only thing you can't do in that situation is short hop it and let the ball get away, and it's exactly what he did. You may not get the runner, but you've got to throw it glove to glove.
8-0 Dodgers. A double steal as Loretta struck out looking, and Jamie Hoffman now. They're not going to give a steal at home, and I don't agree with that.
Well, I don't either. But what happened was they said it wasn't a double steal. He wasn't going to go until the ball bounced away. But
that's not true.
Well, I know, but that's. Hey, John, when a guy steals a base when their other team is winning 5-0, they call it fielder's indifference. That's wrong for me too. You have a chance. If you want to throw the guy out, throw him out. If you don't, that's not the guy who's running's fault. So I agree with you, but that's what they were. Yeah, that's how they ruled.
The runner from third was running.
Well, that's how they.
When they threw down to second, he took off. Here's Fontenot, and he throws out the hustling Hoffman, got him by a step. 2 more runs for the Dodgers, and they lead this game 8-0 after 4.5. Sunday night baseball coverage. John Miller, Joe Morgan, Steve Phillips with you. 8-0. The Dodgers clobbering the Cubs. Bobby Scales leads off against Eric Milton. The fastball is off the outside. 1 ball and no strikes. Scales hit a would-be base hit into right field in the second inning with a runner at third that was turned into a great catch and a double play by Jamie Hoffman. 1 ball, 1 strike to Scales. There's Hoffman out of New Ulm, Minnesota. And he knows Terry Steinbach, the former big league catcher who was at one time the MVP of an All-Star game. From third base, Loretta throws out Scales, who is now 0 for 2. On away here in the 5th inning.
Well, Eric Milton is really a story of perseverance. We talked about his win against the Rockies this past week, was first since 2006. Let's go back to 2001. This is a guy, Milton was a high fastball pitcher with the Minnesota Twins. He had an outstanding season, an all-star that year, but he was throwing the fastball 95, 96 miles per hour up in the zone, getting swings and misses. Now he was prone to the home run because of that high fastball, but that was what he was successful. Then he'd throw a big curveball off of that same slot. But he was a power pitcher up in the zone back then, a fly ball pitcher. Guy who gave up his share of home runs, but logged some victories as well.
Milton had 5 full seasons with the Minnesota Twins. He won as many as 15 games, and 2 other seasons won 13 games for the Twins. Like in the late 90s, early 2000s.
Threw a no-hitter as well.
So Milton was a good pitcher, and later went to the Phillies 2004. He won 14 games for them. Then ended up with Cincinnati. And everything kind of came tumbling down around Eric Milton when he went to the Reds. Here is Orlando Hudson. And Fontenot is now 0 for 2.
Eric Milton is such a fly ball pitcher. There were a lot of questions when Cincinnati signed him in the new ballpark, the hitter's ballpark. You know, you'd think he'd be a better fit for Petco Park with a lot of outfield room. The ball doesn't carry as well, and give up a lot of home runs in his years with the Cincinnati Reds. You see where his career really turned once he went to Cincinnati.
Now Jake Fox is going to come up as a pinch hitter for Ascanio. And this is a very intriguing guy. He's sort of a hitter without a position. You see the Cubs bullpen working as Fox with a swinging strike. Fox is 26 years old, and he was hitting over 400 in the minor leagues this year. He was the best hitter in minor league baseball. They brought him up before Wednesday's game from Iowa. And he, as a pinch hitter here in the big leagues, is 3 for 4, or 3 for 3 as a pinch hitter, 3 for 4 overall. Changeup from Milton.
The question for Jake Fox is, what position does he play? You know, he's listed in the media guide as infield, outfield. He's caught a little bit as well, but he's really a bat without a position.
He was hitting 423 in 149 minor league at bats, but Milton makes short work of it. And his first 1-2-3 inning of the night, on to the 6th.
Sunday Night Baseball, presented by Taco Bell. Brought to you by Lowe's. For all your home improvement needs. Lowe's, let's build something together. And Armor All. Go ahead, stare.
Wrigley Field, Chicago, and the Dodgers lead the Cubs 8-0. And this for many of these Cubs fans, may be all too eerily and depressingly similar to the division series last October when the Dodgers swept the Cubs. Here is Jason Waddell in from the Cubs bullpen now. 27-year-old lefty just up from the minor leagues. And ball one to Eric Milton, who is flied out deep to center and been hit by a pitch. Jake Fox stays in to play third base for the Cubs after pinch hitting for Ascanio.
Well, they're trying to find out if he can play third base.
And Fontenot's moved from third base over to second base with Scales now out of the game. Fox has been getting here early every day, working hard with longtime big league infielder Alan Trammell, who's the bench coach for Lou Piniella and also the infield coach. 1-2 the count. Oh, the curveball, strike three call. Yesterday, we had a camera following those pregame workouts for Fox. There's Trammell in the background. And then today, he went out early and worked at first base.
But after he worked out at third base the other day, Lou Piniella asked Trammell, about him, and Trammell said, "Let's not get excited yet." He said, "Let's not get excited yet, but let's work on it."
Well, Alan Trammell, one of the most fundamentally sound infielders there ever was. I mean, he was sure-handed, always seemed to be in the right spot, so he knows infield. You see him right there. He's moving Fox around over there, kind of shaking his head because you're having to teach him the basics right now.
Fox has been a catcher much of his minor league career. As Rod Pierre is called out on strikes, and Waddell has struck out the first two batters he's ever faced as a big leaguer. Here's Dari Noka in the studio with the Sports Center right now. Adrian Gonzalez, he's
unbelievable.
Got to be the best player that nobody knows.
Unbelievable. And it's interesting, Johnny. He's in a decent situation for a guy that's hitting home runs because they're going to pitch to him. Because the Padres are usually behind or they're not scoring a lot of runs. I mean, if he was on a team like Albert Pujols and all those guys, they just have to walk him because he's basically it. He's the guy.
That's what I don't understand why they do pitch to him.
I know,
because there's nobody protecting him in that lineup.
Well, they were losing for a lot there for a while, but then they got hot again.
You got Kevin Kuzmanoff hitting behind him.
Yeah. Well, they got hot.
Chase Headley.
None of them would make me pitch to Adrian Gonzalez with the way he swings the bat. I mean, that's some damage he could do right there. The unit going for number 300.
It'll be Wednesday in Washington. Randy Johnson and the Giants go to Washington, and Tim Lincecum goes Tuesday, and the big unit will have had an extra couple of days of rest after his last start when he won number 299 against Atlanta in San Francisco. Clint Hurdle fired as the manager of the Rockies just a couple of years after he guided them into their first World Series. A single to right for Carl, his second hit of the game. Tomorrow night, Monday Night Baseball on ESPN at 8 Eastern, 7 Central. The Yankees and the Cleveland Indians from Cleveland. ESPN News will be shown in the New York market. Then on Wednesday Night Baseball, presented by Smirnoff Ice at 7 Eastern on ESPN, the Boston Red Sox and the Detroit Tigers. Terry Francona's Red Sox a half game back of the Yankees, and Jim Leyland's Tigers atop the American League Central Division. Boston had Dustin Pedroia lead off today, and Jacoby Ellsbury hit 8th. Different lineup, and they have not been scoring. Terrio with Fontenot covering, beautifully done by Terrio. Orlando Hudson hits into the force play for Kyle out at second. Top of the order coming up, Soriano for the Cubs. One of the great days in our 20 years of coverage of Major League Baseball, October the 2nd, 1995, the Angels and Mariners, a one-game tiebreaker playoff for the American League West title, and the big unit, one of his 299 career victories, was that one. And that win went a long way that season, and culminated with that win, went a long way toward getting that beautiful new ballpark in Seattle built eventually. And you can issue a vote in the 20-year All-Star team on ESPN at ESPN.com. Check it out. We'll announce the results later on during the season. Alfonso Soriano with a count of 0-2. Popped up to second his first time. Walked in the third. So he is 0 for 1. Eric Milton. And that changeup. Foul tip. Still 0-2. Eric Milton is sort of auditioning for a spot in this Dodgers rotation. Kuroda, who was the opening day starter, comes back tomorrow night. And Milton looks good. He's pitching at Wrigley Field. He's shutting down the Cubs. He made them look bad. They have only 3 hits against him. And the man knows how to pitch. Looks like when he was recuperating from his Tommy John surgery, he must have watched a lot of Jamie Moyer video.
He throws a little harder than Jamie. Jamie won his 250th game today.
Soriano, that's into the crowd.
I'll tell you, it says a lot about a pitcher. While he's on rehab and he's not able to perform in games, and he improves in a certain area. That's not easy to do when you're trying to physically get better. And Eric Milton had always been a fastball, curveball pitcher. He had a little bit of a slider, but he's gone to the changeup, and you know, he had a lot of time where he could just throw and work on grips and get a feel for the changeup, and it's paying off for him.
Strike 3.
I think every left-handed pitcher should have a changeup. I mean, I think that makes them far more effective against right-handed hitters if they do have a changeup.
Milton, in his first start, was not as accurate with his first pitches for strikes. Tonight, nearly 3 out of every 4 first pitches have been in there for strikes, and now another first pitch strike. This one to Ryan Theriot.
John, we were showing that, you know, Clint Hurdle got fired, and none of us like to see managers get fired. And you mentioned the fact that, you know, a couple of years ago they had him in the World Series. I thought he made a great statement today. He said, or when he was fired, he said on Friday, he said, you know, I've answered all your questions for 7 years. The positive ones, the negative ones, I've stood here and answered them all. He said, no questions today, as he was leaving. That was great for me.
1 ball, 1 strike, and Theriot toward the middle and knocked down by Furcal, but nothing more. And Theriot's got his second hit.
I think that Clint Hurdle understands that your exit interview after getting fired is your entrance interview for the next job that you want. And when you're emotional and feeling bad and you've just been let go, there's nothing you're going to say that is the right thing to say. You can't be bitter or anything else. And I think the thing for the Dodgers to look at is they're in a division now where 2 managers have been fired, and one other team, the San Diego Padres, have dropped $40 million from their payroll from last year to this year. It's a good division to be in.
Milton Bradley. And the count is 0-1. Bradley has struck out and popped up to second. Well, the 2 managers in the division who've been fired this year were both fired right after the Dodgers left town.
And you accused Joe Torre of getting them fired.
I'm not accusing him. I'm just reporting. I'm reporting the facts. Go into Colorado and you score 31 runs in 3 games and you beat the home team, and you don't even hit a home run and you put 31 runs in those 3 games on the board. The manager gets fired, apparently. The Dodgers, the only team that's even come close to giving him some trouble is the Giants.
Which is normal.
The Giants and the Dodgers. The Giants are a ball club, much younger club, although the Dodgers have some outstanding young talent. The Giants have been going, they've had some fine young pitchers and the young Sandoval that we saw. But the Dodgers have young talent that has arrived, and they're really starting to find themselves as big leaguers. Guys like Kemp and Loney, Russell Martin. Impact type players. And that's a foul into the seats off to the right. 1 ball, 2 strikes to Milton Bradley. Cubs bullpen is working. That is Patton, the Rule 5 draftee, David Patton. Very unusual for a club that figures itself to be a contender to have a Rule 5 draftee on the roster, much less in their bullpen. 1-2 the count, and the fastball a little bit low. Milton using that slide step. 2 balls, 2 strikes to Milton Bradley. Derek Lee, the cleanup hitter, is on deck. Here's Lee. His Cubs are trailing 8-0 here in the 6th inning to the Dodgers. That one well to left field and over the head of Pierre into the ivy. And Pierre's going to hold Bradley to a single. Over to third base goes Terrio.
Well, Eric Milton has been outstanding here this afternoon despite that ball off the wall. And, you know, he's carrying on what he started in Colorado in his last start, and that's the remake of his stuff. It's the off-speed pitches. We've seen the breaking ball and the effectiveness, hitting his spot, changing speeds on that 75 miles per hour on that big sweeping curveball. He has the slider as well that he's used effectively in this game today, the changeup. So we saw the guy who used to be the high fastball pitcher at 94, 95 miles per hour now become a breaking ball pitcher, but still very effective.
Derek Lee now, runners at first and third. Big rip at that one, but fouling it back to the screen. Lee has had some success against Milton in the past, but that was a different Milton, as we've just seen. Derek Lee has had 3 career home runs against Milton in 20 at-bats. There is Ronald Belisario up in the Dodgers bullpen. First bullpen activity for the Dodgers tonight. That got him. Lee ends up being hit by the pitch, and the bases are loaded.
And Lee did not want to take his base.
I think Lee felt like something was going to happen in this at-bat. And he only grudgingly left the batter's box to go to first.
So this is also why I said when it was 7-0, it was okay to go. And the part just nicks his shirt there. There he says he gets some on his shirt. And this is why you try to get as many runs as you can, because one swing of the bat now, and we're back in the close ball games.
Man, I don't recall ever seeing a guy looking so down about being told, hey, you get to go to first base.
Well, he wanted to swing the bat.
He did hit one well. He had, in fact, 2 hard hit balls. One a line drive right to third, and then a drive deep into right center against the wind his last time. So Lee really seemed to be wanting to have his swings there against Milton. Well, here is Reed Johnson, who's hit a double and an infield single. 2 for 2. And the called strike. Another first pitch strike there from Milton. Even a strike throwing machine, especially at the beginning of an at-bat.
Well, he's going with off-speed stuff for strike one. Going with the slider, the curveball, and the changeup to get strike one. A lot of times hitters sitting on that fastball for the first pitch. They take the off-speed pitch, and then he's in a position where he can go off-speed again on a backdoor breaking ball or come in with a fastball.
That's into the gap in right center field. Kemp knocks it down. Terrio has scored. Bradley right behind him. Lee over to third. A 2-run double for Reed Johnson, and his 3rd hit of the game. 8-2 Dodgers.
So when you have a guy like Milton, who is not a shutdown type of pitcher, that's why I say when it's 7-0, you still try to score runs if it's early in the ballgame. High fastball up and out of the strike zone. And Reed Johnson does a good job of getting on top of it, finding the gap in right center field, scoring 2 Cubs runs. And again, they still have a couple of runners out there, and if they can get those 2 runners home, they can feel like they're back in the ball game.
And Joe Torre makes a slow walk out to the mound. He's got Belisario up in his bullpen. But 4 straight Cubs have reached base here with 1 away. Single by Terrio, single by Bradley. The hit by pitch, Derek Lee, and then the 2-run double by Reed Johnson. Johnson's had a pretty good couple of days here. He was 3 for 3, plus a walk yesterday and 2 batted in. He's 3 for 3 tonight with 2 batted in. And Eric Milton will depart. 2 runs on the board, 2 runners in scoring position as Belisario is summoned for the bullpen. Giovanni Soto coming up. Third innings, and he departs with a 6-run advantage, but 2 runners that also belong to his record as he gives up the ball.
An outstanding effort on his part, changing speeds, changing hitters' eye levels, using his assortment of pitches tonight.
And now Ronald Belisario, who made this ball club in the spring, and he throws hard, and the ball sinks. He's one of those guys who throws hard, but gets a lot of movement on the ball as well. He's from Maracay, Venezuela. He is 26 years old. Runners at second and third. Giovanni Soto, the hitter. And he strikes him with a breaking ball just off the outside for ball 1. In his major league debut back in San Diego, early April. Popped up, foul, and out of play. Belisario may be sad to see the month of May ending tonight. He's only allowed 2 earned runs this month in 14 innings. But he's one of those guys that you were talking about earlier, Steve. The Dodger bullpen has been a busy place this year, and he leads the team in appearances out of the bullpen. This is his 26th game. He's been in half the Dodger games. Right on the outside corner at 95, strike 2.
What's interesting is he's never pitched higher than the AA level before this year with that kind of arm. At 26 years old, Pirates organization, Marlins organization. That's Tommy John surgery and missed parts of 2 years.
Strike 3 call. Soto goes down looking.
Well, they just started throwing harder and harder. Started 93, went up to 95, and went away, put him away at 96. That last fastball really popped. And the last fastball, I mean, this ball just pops. And of course, Soto thought it was away. At least it sounded away.
Now Micah Hoffbauer is a pinch hitter for Waddell, the pitcher who made his major league debut tonight. He pitched 1 scoreless inning. Hoffbauer hitting .284. He's got 4 home runs, 16 batted in. Hoffbauer's only had 95 at bats for the year.
There's that movement that we're talking about on the fastball. The velocity with that movement, that riding, sinking action away from the left-handed hitter. He's got just an electric fastball. It just jumps out of his hand, explodes on the hitter.
Lee at third, Johnson at second. And again, you see that movement running away from the left-handed hitter. 1 ball and 2 strikes.
Really tough for the hitter to center that pitch. You think you're on it, you got to gauge the velocity, and then that late movement. This is late movement. It gets to the plate. Look at that little tailing action as it gets close to the plate. Tough to center a guy like that.
Hawk Power 4 for 12 as a pinch hitter. And the slider is down and in. 88-mile-an-hour slider. Belisario has been an important man in that Dodger bullpen. 2.43 ERA. Almost a strikeout per inning. Hot power bounces it foul. Belisario before tonight, 29 2/3 innings pitched, only 21 hits allowed. Only Ramon Troncoso has pitched more innings out of the Dodger bullpen than has Belisario.
I'll tell you what, this guy's a gift, though. A minor league free agent, never pitched in the big leagues before. You bring him into camp, and he is your go-to guy in situations, the most appearances. And that is an absolute gift for an organization.
Matt Kemp gets there. So the Cubs do not get those other 2 home. Another fine job by Belisario. 8-2. On to the 7th. ESPN Sunday Night Baseball. I'm John Miller with Joe Morgan and Steve Phillips, and there is David Patton in from the Cubs bullpen. He's the 4th pitcher of the night, utilized by Lou Piniella. His 11th big league game. And he drops the breaking ball in there for a strike to Russell Martin, who has singled, grounded out, and walked. Patton, a Rule 5 draftee during the winter meetings this past December, and a curveball in there for a strike. He actually was drafted by the Cincinnati Reds, and later in that same day acquired by the Cubs for what was called a cash consideration. And that's right through the middle, base hit for Russell Martin. The Dodgers' 11th hit, 2 of them by Martin. The bat will be James Loney. The NBA Finals will be set to go starting Thursday, 9 o'clock Eastern on ABC. All the games will be seen on ABC television. Game 1 Thursday, Kobe Bryant and the Lakers and the Magic in their first finals since 1995. Dwight Howard finished with a career postseason high 40 points, 14 rebounds, and 4 assists as they eliminated LeBron James and the Cleveland Cavaliers. Hit well to left center. There is Soriano on the warning track. James Loney, who earlier had an RBI single and an RBI double, now 2 for 4.
Joe, who do you have in the NBA Finals?
I don't pick that. I'm just looking for a great final. I tell you what, I think the Magic are an interesting team to watch because they just shoot 3-pointers, and NBA teams are not normally accustomed to defending the 3-pointer. They defend in the paint and whatever. I enjoyed watching them play. I mean, they were a fun team to watch because they would let it fly. And I don't think it's going to be as easy as a lot of people think for the Lakers to stop them.
Weren't able to stop them twice this year, right? They played twice. Magic won both.
The only question that it has is, can Dwight Howard stay out of foul trouble?
Right.
That's the answer.
Because what we saw is LeBron James kept going to the basket and getting him into foul trouble.
Right. And Kobe Bryant is capable of doing the same thing, but they also have some more big men. So it's going to be an interesting playoff, I think. I would actually like to go to a game.
Do you know anybody?
Well, what are you looking at me for?
Do you know anybody?
Go ahead and go if you want to go.
Listen, of the three of us, you got the best shot at getting tickets.
I don't really know anybody. I mean, I'm worried. I'm trying here.
If anybody's watching, Joe wants tickets to the game. So.
Actually, Thursday night
would be the best.
I'll be in L.A.
There goes Russell Martin, and the throw down is high and wide by Soto. And again, another poor throw by Giovanni Soto. Martin, but the Dodgers had 8-2, stealing second.
And Martin has been able to steal bases, since he's been in the big leagues. He steal a base here and there. He's not a base stealer, of course, but you don't have to be. You can just pick your spots.
He's pretty good for a catcher.
Right.
He's got 7 steals for the year, and 56 in his career.
Yeah.
So it is amazing. It is amazing that we're talking about the 2 all-star catchers in the National League, Russell Martin and Giovanni Soto. And between them, they have 1 home run by the end of May. Yeah. And it's amazing what's happening.
Well, Russell Martin at least is hitting, and he's knocking in some runs, and nothing really is going well for Giovanni Soto with the bat or in trying to throw out base stealers.
You see the numbers there. I mean, the extra base hits, 14 combined extra base hits for these 2 guys who were really centerpieces to the offense. I mean, the Cubs offense was so deep last year because Soto, hitting in the 6th spot or 7th spot in the lineup, had a great on-base percentage, and he hit for power.
That one in the dirt, and Kemp runs and is thrown out by Soto. Kemp now 2 for 4 with a home run and a couple of strikeouts. Time now for our fan experience from Wrigley Field in Chicago, brought to you by Lowe's. This is the view from outside Wrigley on game day, located at the northern tip of the Lakeview neighborhood.
Solid white.
A lot of sports-themed bars and eateries, including Harry Carey's and Murphy's Bleachers. There's Harry Carey's Tavern. And Harry Carey himself, memorialized with his own statue out in the right field corner outside Wrigley Field. And, of course, part of the scene here in Wrigleyville, game day or game night, the rooftop seats across the streets.
Actually, I saw the great statue of Ernie Banks outside when we were coming in, too. That beautiful crouch he hit out of. Actually, I think Ernie was returning to town today.
511 home runs. Ernie Banks, Hall of Famer.
Gentleman as well.
Yeah. And I remember back in the 60s when you were first starting out, Joe, Cubs had Banks, Billy Williams, Ron Santo, but they almost never won. It was hard to understand that, how they could have all those great players. Maybe the pitching wasn't that good.
Well, they also had some Hall of Famers too. I mean, they had Ferguson Jenkins as one of their pitchers.
Yeah.
I mean,
well, later in the 60s.
Yeah, but they also had a good infield, Kassinger and Backert.
3-1 the count to Mark Loretta. In the later 60s, then they did start to win. In '69, they had
a great chance.
Quite a season, although it ended in extreme disappointment. And our friend Ron Santo, now a broadcaster for the Cubs radio network, WGN here in Chicago, still not in the Hall of Fame.
I saw him today. Talked to him for a little bit. He was when I got to the ballpark.
Ron Santo, I'd like to see him get to the Hall of Fame. Not because I like him, but because I think he deserves it.
Well, that's the best reason. There's Ron. I mean, he definitely was one of the better third basemen in all of baseball during his era.
What is he on union break over there right now? They're down by too many runs, so he says, I can't handle it. I'm not going to go on right now. There's ball 4 to Mark Loretta. He had a 2-run first inning double in that 5-run rally that put the Dodgers ahead from the very beginning. So Loretta is aboard, and now Jamie Hoffman. Now, Hoffman's been pretty impressive tonight. Hit a sacrifice fly in the first inning, lined out to third in the fourth, and grounded out his last time, but also made the play of the night defensively as he robbed Bobby Scales of what looked to be an RBI hit, and then got up and gunned down Reed Johnson, who tried to tag up and score. On 1 the count to Jamie Hoffman. That's foul past third. Let's go back. This was the second inning with Johnson at third and Scales at the plate.
See him come in and be able to get back and recover quickly. And an outstanding throw. A great pick at the plate by Russell Martin as he blocked the plate. Reed Johnson never able to touch the plate.
And I think that is a real part of the Dodgers' success. Their defense is excellent. They already had an outstanding center fielder, Matt Kemp, and they've added Orlando Hudson, who's about as good a second baseman as you'll find in the game, maybe the best defensively. And now you got a guy like Hoffman coming off the bench up from the minor leagues, and he looks outstanding too.
When you talk to the Dodgers guys, they say Hudson saves a run or two every week.
And Hoffman down on strikes. Gave him all that praise and he strikes out. Still a work in progress, Jamie Hoffman. Got some talent though. 8-2 Dodgers. Chicago, the Dodgers and the Cubs. And tonight's aerial coverage is brought to you by DirecTV. Get every MLB game in HD this season with DirecTV. John Miller with Hall of Famer Joe Morgan and longtime Major League General Manager Steve Phillips. And here is Ronald Belisario for the Dodgers up against Mike Fontenot leading off for Chicago here in the last of the 7. The Dodgers ahead 8-2, and Steve as a general manager, I guess you'd have to appreciate what Ned Colletti, the Dodgers GM, did in picking up a guy like Belisario.
I mean, you really look at it. I mean, you have to credit your scouting staff. Somebody saw him pitch at AA Altoona last year. They probably saw him pitch in winter ball. They give him a minor league contract to come into camp and throw, and he's on your major league club and a major part of your bullpen. This kid has an electric arm, and it looks like he has a feel for what he's doing out there. That sinking fastball away at 95, a slider at 88, breaking down and into the left-hander.
And there's that 94-mile-an-hour sinker off the outside. 2 balls and a strike. Fontenot has twice grounded out to second in this game. Jake Fox, the rookie, on deck, and then Alfonso Soriano due up third for the Cubs here. And that ball runs off the outside, ball 3. Three and 1 the count to Fontenot. Fontenot, who was a role player for the Cubs last year, who hit real well. And that fastball in there for a high strike, and it's 3-2. But they decided that he was ready to be the regular second baseman this year. And they needed more left-handed hitting anyway, so they let DeRosa go. Picked up Milton Bradley, a switch hitter with a good left-handed bat, and they need one. Fontenot, they figured, playing every day, so suddenly they had a little more of a left-handed presence. That was their Achilles heel last year, and it really cost them big time when they faced the primarily right-handed Dodger pitching staff in the division series in October.
You know, they traded away Mark DeRosa, not because they didn't like Mark DeRosa, but they needed to free up some payroll in order to afford Milton Bradley's bat in the outfield. And with that came some issues. Came the fact that they lost that protection. When you look at the Cubs and what they may need as you move forward down the stretch, I mean, offense is an issue. And second base is really the only position where Fontenot is playing where they could put somebody in there. The problem is that you know, who's going to be available. If you're not going to get a second baseman, then you need a DeRosa type. You need a Ty Wigginton. You need a Mark DeRosa, that sort of guy who could play multiple positions, who could also swing the bat. And then in the bullpen, you see the bullpen numbers there. They could use a quality right-hander and left-hander to give Carlos Marmol a blow, because he has taken a heavy workload out in that pen.
Fontenot continues to battle it out here with Belisario. Fontenot hit .305 last year with 9 home runs. He was a reliable pinch hitter. He could play multiple positions and coming off the bench, but almost always against right-handed pitching. Thought maybe he was ready to face all types of pitching this year. That one deep into left field. Pierre in front of the ivy. He's got it as he almost disappeared into the ivy. Hit well to the opposite field by Fontenot, but for an out on the 9th pitch of the at-bat.
Well, you're talking about the Cubs offense, and even if they add a second baseman, that player alone is not going to be the difference maker for the team. They need their good players to play well. They've got their big bats that are struggling. They need Aramis Ramirez to come back and be healthy, but they need Derek Lee to hit. They need Giovanni Soto to start to swing the bat. And it doesn't matter if they add the best second baseman around, that may not be enough.
There's a called strike to Jake Fox, the rookie. Derek Lee coming into this game, and he's hit better of late, but his average going in tonight was only .246, 5 home runs, only 19 RBIs. This is through nearly a third of the season. That translates out to 15, 16 homers, maybe 57, 58 RBIs over a full season. And they're counting on him for 20-something homers and around 100 RBIs.
You know, Joe, I think the difficult thing is you've got all your big horses that aren't producing, and some may start to turn it around. But can you hope for everybody to turn it around?
Well, I mean, you really need Derek Lee and Aramis Ramirez to turn it around, and Bradley. I think those are your keys. your 3, 4, 5, or whatever order they hit in. Those are the 3 guys, in my opinion, that need to turn it around. If you can get all of those 3 guys to react and play the way they're capable of, some of those other guys like Fontenot, who was just an addition last year, he wasn't counted on to do a lot. He was kind of a guy that just added to what they already had. And remember this, no matter what we say about the Cubs last year, they led the league in runs scored and everything else, on base percentage. I mean this, I'm not so sure if they didn't overreact a little bit to what happened to them with the Dodgers. Remember this, the Dodgers were hot at the right time last year. The year before, remember Colorado, they got hot at the end. So are you going to react because some other team got hot? I thought the Cubs were the best team in the National League last year until the playoffs. So did we overreact? I think when you get rid of a Mark DeRosa and you start moving guys, sometimes I do think you overreact.
I mean, one thing we know is Jim Henry took a lot of criticism for trading Mark DeRosa.
And I agree, from me too.
But I think that what we have to understand is if they needed that left-handed bat, they had to trade Mark DeRosa. They had to gain financial flexibility. If they're all moving pieces, that was the piece that they could move where they thought they had the protection with Fontenot to play second base. I like DeRosa. But I understand why Jim Henry made the move that he needed to. Now, Jason Marquis moved as well because that was some of the other financial flexibility they gained to be able to afford that bat in Milton Bradley.
All right, I mean, I like the addition of Milton Bradley, there's no doubt about that, but I do not like the loss of DeRosa because he could play all the infield spots. He was a guy that good clutch hitter. He was a good RBI man. I just liked him as a player. I think he was a winning player. And that's what you have to be concerned with. You can't just trade players all the time for pieces. You have to find winning players. You have to have guys that can do more than just hit, to do more than add something in the clubhouse, add something on the bench. And to me, Mark DeRosa was that kind of guy. And so I just don't like the fact you're just moving pieces because, again, they beat the Dodgers all season last year, right? And then the Dodgers got hot in the playoff and beat them. Colorado was beaten up all year the year before. They win 24 out of 25, whatever, down the stretch. They got hot at the right time. So you can't just react to what some other team does. If your team played well all year long and they were beaten in the playoffs, I don't know if you can just go out and say, okay, I'm going to plan just for the playoffs next year. Because you may not get there.
Yeah, I think the one thing is it's been a tough run for the Cubs. The Aramis Ramirez loss is huge. I mean, I think we cannot understate. I mean, when he comes back, I foresee an impact to the Cubs like A-Rod coming back to the Yankees where it changed the rest of the lineup. I think he can have that kind of impact for their team. He's not A-Rod, but he can really impact the rest of the guys on this club.
Soriano down the right field line. And Jamie Hoffman runs out of room. It's into the crowd. 1 ball, 2 strikes. You go back to this, the notion of the reason DeRosa had to be moved was to free up the salary for Milton Bradley. Does that not go to the sale of the ball club, where finances are being watched very closely? The accountants are doing their due diligence. The people who are looking to buy the ball club are poring over all those records and documents. In other words, why was it that they had to create room? The Cubs are teetering on the verge of bankruptcy, or what?
I mean, listen,
part of that is the fact that they were being sold.
I think the ownership issue is certainly there, but even if the ownership wasn't going to change, it's hard to add a $10 million player and not reconfigure the money in some way to be able to do it. I think most teams would have to do that if they didn't create a void with the money. I mean, the other ones, they let Kerry Wood walk away as well and not get that big free agent.
You had Kerry Wood leave that was some money they freed up. Jason Marquis was some more money that was freed up. So you had to free up DeRosa. I mean, they made a lot of changes. I just don't see. I thought they were the best team in the National League last year, all season long. They just didn't play well in the playoffs. And I've seen that before. I've seen teams not play as well in the playoffs as they played throughout the season. And not only that, you see teams get hot at the right time, and I thought that's what happened to the Dodgers last year. I don't think the Dodgers, most of the season, we say they were the best team in the National League, even after they got Manny. Remember, even after they got Manny, they struggled for a while to score runs, to win the division. They got hot down the stretch, won the division, and then they were able to play the Cubs. But I don't know. I think sometimes we overreact to certain things that happen. And look, the Cubs haven't won in so long. Everybody wants the Cubs to win, so you're trying to do everything, to make sure you win. But I don't think they've done that this year.
And that one is a fair ball for Soriano. What an at bat by Soriano against Belisario.
See, I told you you could learn to adjust.
He's got a double.
Now you bat him third. We're in complete agreement.
Soriano at second after the double. Boys and Girls Clubs of America is the official charity of Major League Baseball, reaching more than 4 million kids worldwide. Together, they create a positive place for kids. There are a lot of young people here at Wrigley Field tonight at the end of May. And it's not been a happy night for them in terms of their own ball club trailing 8-2, but got a chance to cut a little bit of that lead right here. And the Dodger bullpen has Ramon Troncoso getting ready. And Rick Honeycutt, the Dodgers pitching coach, is going to go visit with Belisario now, along with Russell Martin and Mark Loretta.
Cubs had such a great year last year. You're right, they failed in the postseason. Well, the Dodgers look like that team this year. A lot going right for them, right? Scoring a lot of runs, leading in runs scored. The pitching has been off the charts. Well, they're going to have some needs. Well, I really think they're going to need a veteran starter. Now, they may think that it's going to be Hiroki Kuroda. There's Ned Colletti, their fine general manager. I'm not sure Kuroda's that guy, or you can count on him. But I think Billingsley and Kershaw have that power stuff that can work in the postseason. But I think they need a veteran-type guy to slot in between those two. Youth is good, but I want to have somebody who's been there before. And then the bullpen. We talked about Troncoso warming up in the pen. We talked about Belisario. Young guys. I would like to have a veteran go-to guy on that bullpen to help these young guys in those pressure situations.
Here's Terrio, the runner at second, 2 down in the 7th inning. Terrio's had 2 hits for the Cubs, 2 singles and a run scored. He's got 5 homers, 22 RBIs. Terrio has as many home runs as Derek Lee and more RBIs than Derek. Look out. Wow. Frightening moment there for Ryan Terrio. He just barely got out of the way.
Man, that's scary, huh? That is right about there. He's realizing I'm in trouble. Athleticism to get out of the way of that one.
2-0 the count. Milton Bradley would be next. And a pop foul out of play.
Well, sometimes they put the animation on a baseball where it's got a face on it. Well, that ball's come in and it has teeth on it that you think as a hitter it's going to bite you.
Been a high stress inning for Belisario. This will be his 27th pitch of the inning. There have been a couple of real long at bats in this inning. Right to third, and Loretta throws him out, and so it goes for the Cubs. We're in Chicago, Sunday Night Baseball. The busy downtown area, 8-2 Dodgers.
is presented by Taco Bell. Think outside the bun. And in part by Budweiser. Reach for the perfect balance of flavor and refreshment. Budweiser, the great American lager.
And the Navy Pier here in Chicago with the sensational Ferris wheel. We call them Ferris wheels, and there's a look from the blimp over at the Navy Pier area. And that, especially in the summertime, that is a great place to go, as Carlos Marmol has come in from the Cubs bullpen. Now, ordinarily, you'd see him in the 8th inning with the Cubs leading by a run or two. He is a great setup man. Marmol, in his 25th game of the year, 22 innings pitched, only 13 hits allowed, 25 strikeouts. But he also can be wild. He's walked 20 in 22 innings.
Well, he has not been as consistent as he was a couple of years ago. I mean, he was the guy. I mean, he threw strikes with every pitch. He was overpowering with the fastball and had such a great, devastating slider. Ooh.
Well, now you think there's something to this as Brad Ausmus, the pinch hitter, gets hit by the pitch right after we saw Terrio get low bridge with one from Belisario.
I think that's tough with Marmol. It's hard to tell. I mean, because he can scatter his fastball at times.
The home plate umpire, Rob Drake, out to speak to Marmol.
Well, see, that's been one of his problems. He hadn't had the same control that he had before.
Well, that went pretty directly right at that elbow in his backside.
Well,
Brad Ausmus not looking real happy about it.
Well, it got him right on the elbow.
May have had some intent on that.
You think Drake went out there and issued a warning? I didn't see him look up to the press box. Usually he alerts the press box.
Well, I think you have to warn both teams anyway.
Here's Juan Pierre, who led off the game with a base hit that started a 5-run first inning for the Dodgers. So they have been ahead and way ahead throughout the night. They lead right now 8-2. Pierre has not had a hit since. Pops this one up, foul ground. Jake Fox chases over with Soto, but it's into the crowd. 2 strikes to count now to Juan Pierre. Dodgers 34 wins, 17 losses. The Dodgers, even though they were a better offensive team after they got Manny Ramirez the last couple of months of last year, they finished 13th in the league in runs per game. This year, 5.5 runs per game. The highest increase in all of Major League Baseball from last year till this year, as Pierre is down on strikes.
Tough night for Pierre after the first inning.
Struck out 3 times. Here's Dari Noka in the studio with the Sports Center right now. Saw the Brewers last Sunday in Minnesota, and they recovered nicely after getting swept by the Twins in an interleague series as Furcal has a count of 2-0. Furcal got a base hit his first time. In fact, the first 5 Dodgers hitters all had base hits, all singles. First time in 13 years that the Dodgers started a game with 5 consecutive singles. And ultimately, Loretta capped all of that off with a 2-run double, and they ended up with 5 runs in the first inning. You see Orlando Hudson in the background. He's on deck. There's that slider. Marmol knocks it down, boxes it, can't find it. And here comes Orlando Hudson now with Ausmus over to second. That'll be an error on Marmol.
And we talked about Orlando Hudson being a fabulous addition, and they say at least twice a week he saves run. The one thing to watch for him is how quickly he starts. Watch it. He's on his toes. Boom. Right away he's going toward the ball to his right. comes up, makes the throw quickly to the left. He just gets a quick start. That's the key to being a middle infielder, is that quick start and being on your toes and being able to react very quickly to the ball.
3-time Gold Glove winner. He had been with the Blue Jays in the American League before moving on to the Arizona Diamondbacks for the last couple of years. Made the All-Star team 2 years ago. But Hudson became an instant favorite with Dodgers fans, his new ball club. On its opening day at Dodger Stadium, Orlando Hudson hit for the cycle. His first home game with his new ball club. And he hit for the cycle against their arch rivals, the San Francisco Giants.
Boy, as a general manager, that's a dream come true. You sign a free agent, in his first game in front of the home fans, he hits for the cycle.
Now there is Fontenot, the second one. Terrio will not throw to first. Hudson, in addition to everything else, runs fairly well. He's not a blazing speedster, but he runs well enough. Over to third base goes Ausmus for Kyle out at second on the force out. And Hudson is now 1 for 5 in the game.
Back to the wintertime, I mean, Orlando Hudson couldn't find a job. I mean, he was out there very deep into the spring trainings, getting ready to start. Nobody's there to sign him, and finally the Dodgers step up and get a deal done, and what a great deal it's been.
Here's Russell Martin, and they got him very inexpensively, relatively speaking.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. Speak for yourself.
Yeah.
Relatively inexpensively. Yeah.
Russell Martin with 2 singles and a walk in this game. He scored 2 runs. I'm wondering if the Dodgers, he seems to have been such a valuable player for them. Do you think it would be wise for them to explore giving him a contract extension, locking him up for a few years to come? And the slider from Marmol is off the outside. 3-0 the count to Russell Martin.
They'd have to consider doing that. I mean, I think you look at the free agent signings. I mean, there's not many better than what Orlando Hudson has done. Raul Ibanez is obviously great. Trevor Hoffman and Frankie Rodriguez with the Mets. But Orlando Hudson right now is probably the most valuable player for the Dodgers. And if you're the Dodgers, you'd love to keep him.
And that's ball 4. So a hit batsman and a walk plus an error. So Marmol has been his own worst enemy in this inning. He made the error. He hit a batter. Now he's walked a batter. And the bases are loaded. And Larry Rothschild, the pitching coach, is going to go out and speak to him. The bases loaded, and James Loney coming up. Long night for Lou Piniella and his Cubs. They are trailing 8-2. MLB.TV, the ultimate baseball experience, featuring 100 out-of-market games per week live on your computer. For more details, visit MLB.TV, where baseball is always on.
You know, when you just take a look at the Cubs, I guess my question would be also about the Cubs. Are they a better team now than they were last year? That would be my question.
Well,
and my answer, and my answer is no.
Okay.
That's my assumption. That's my reaction to everything that they've done. I don't think they're a better team right now than they were last year. Obviously, there has been some injury issues with, Ramirez and some of the other players, but I just don't think they're a better team. I thought they were an excellent team last year.
Well, I think they can be a better team. They just aren't there yet. But I think the Cubs' best baseball is ahead of them still.
Well, I agree with that. I think they should be. I think Bradley, as I said, Bradley's going to hit. He's going to drive in some runs for you. Those things are going to happen. If you get Ramirez back, all those things are going to happen. But I still do not think that they will be a better team than they were last year.
Well, it was a great year. They won 97 games, the most in the league. But remember, 2 years ago, Lou Piniella's first year managing the Cubs, they were off to a much worse start than this. In fact, around this time of the year, they were 8 or 9 games under 500, and they came back and ended up going into October baseball. Marmol comes back to get Loney, leaving the bases loaded. Milton Bradley, then Derek Lee coming up for the Cubs. Way through downtown Chicago. Dodgers lead the Cubs 8-2 as we head to the last half of the 8th inning. Ramon Troncoso is in to pitch now for the Dodgers in relief of Ronald Belisario. Interesting how Belisario, who has been in more games than any other Dodger reliever, worked hard tonight in a game that was a big score. He threw 37 pitches in 1 2/3 innings. The Dodgers lead 8-2. Milton Bradley bunts at it and misses on the first pitch from Troncoso, with Loretta playing deep at third. There's Belisario, who's had arm trouble in the past.
One of the problems you have with a guy like that, John, is he throws so hard they're not going to put the ball into play in 1 or 2 pitches. So he ends up, when he struggles a little bit, and then he's going to really struggle.
Bradley drives one into deep center, but Kemp is back waiting. One away. The Dodgers were off to a fabulous start with Manny Ramirez in the lineup. 21-8 through May the 6th. The team average was 283, averaging 5.6 runs per game, nearly a home run per game. Since he was suspended, they've gone 13-9. Remember, they lost 4 out of their first 5 after he was suspended, however. In their last 2, for most of that time, they played real well without him, as Derek Lee takes strike 1. Their batting average has been better, and their runs per game almost equal, although their home runs per game almost cut in half without Manny. And I think, but that is kind of surprising. Up until the last couple of days, they actually were averaging a little bit more runs per game than they had with Manny there.
Well, we talk about their offense. They have to lump hits together. Since 1981, there are only 4 teams that have made the playoffs who got a lower percentage of their runs from the home run than what the Dodgers are getting right now.
That's a base hit for Derek Lee, who is now 1 for 3, plus being hit by a pitch. Hit number 8 for the Cubs.
You know, those 4 teams that made the playoffs with a lower percentage of their runs coming from the home run were all in the early to mid 80s. Then we went into the era of baseball where the home run became the important thing, and the question is, can this Dodger team sustain this kind of run production with the type of offense that they have? You see the 20.4% of the runs from the home run, lowest in baseball. And we said since 81, only 4 other teams have had a lower percentage and made the playoffs.
Well, one of the reasons they're always going to have a lower percentage, they play in a pretty big ballpark. Ball doesn't carry as well there at night as it does in some of these other ballparks. And all of a sudden now Yankee Stadium becomes a home run haven where it wasn't before. So I think
that is handled at first by Loney. He gets the force out at second, making the throw from his knees to the shortstop for Cal. Derek Lee out at second, but James Loney showing some Gold Glove skills over there at first base.
Well, one of the reasons they can sustain it, I think, Steve, is because they have a good defense. They play very well on the infield. I mean, they've got some Gold Glove infielders, and Casey Blake's not in there now, but when you look at Rafael Fakal, who's an excellent shortstop, Orlando Hudson, Loney, Casey Blake, that's a good infield.
Blake out of the lineup tonight with a hamstring problem. Here is Giovanni Soto with 2 down, and now Reed Johnson aboard. First time that Reed Johnson has not had a hit tonight. He had 2 doubles and a single earlier and had knocked in the Cubs' only runs. And there's ball 1 inside to Giovanni Soto. 1 ball and no strikes. Now, if you're not hitting home runs, you not only have to get a lot of base hits, and their team average 287, and most teams don't sustain that for an entire year. Not in this era of baseball. You've got to get a lot of walks, a lot of base runners. And you also have to do everything well. You have to play great defense. And so far they have played outstanding defense. Probably the best defense in the league so far this season, as they near the 1/3 part of the season. But they are winning games at a pace to win 108, 109 games this year.
Well, remember this. I think the home run is most important when you're trying to come from behind. If you fall behind 5 runs, it's hard to make up that 5-run deficit without hitting home runs. So the key is, if they can keep from falling way behind a lot of times, then the home run is not as important to them as say it would be to some of the other teams who are falling behind. So it's back to the pitching that Joe Torre talked about.
Giovanni Soto with his first hit of the night, 2 men on. And now Kosuke Fukudome will be the pinch hitter for Carlos Marmol.
In an ideal situation, you'd love to have what the Dodgers have, plus Manny Ramirez and somebody else with some power in an ideal situation. But I don't know if you have that, because you have to look at what they're dealing with. You're in the National League West. National League West is the only division that hasn't won a World Series in the last 7 years. So look at this. I mean, what are you're in pretty good shape in your division. Now, if you're talking about winning the World Championship, that may be a little different story, but I still think the Dodgers are the class of the American National League West, even if they do not hit a lot of home runs.
Here's Fukudome hitting .311, best batting average for the Cubs, 5 home runs and a check swing, and breaking for third is Reed Johnson. He makes it to third.
Reed Johnson's an aggressive base runner, isn't he?
Well, you know what? He's a baseball player, because he's down 8-2 and he's not giving up. I mean, he's out there playing the game, maintaining a focus and an intensity level, a good secondary lead off the base, anticipating the ball in the dirt, and that's what this is. This is anticipation. This is expecting something to happen and then being able to react quickly once you read it.
So Reed Johnson now at third with Soto at first. There is Jonathan Broxton, the Dodgers closer, now getting ready in the right field bullpen. And the Cubs closer, Kevin Gregg, is doing the same in the home bullpen along the left field line. Fukudome trying to knock in a run here or more. Fastball to strike. Fukudome 0 for 1 as a pinch hitter. And he is a guy who continues to get a lot of walks. He's walked 31 times. His on-base average is .441. But he didn't look very patient right there. 1 ball and 2 strikes now.
With all the movement that Fukudome has, is he has to be perfect in his swing. Everything has to be right there. And I mean, because he's got so much movement, he actually pulls away. He needs to stay there. When he's hitting well, he stays there just a little longer.
Did he swing? Yes. Third base umpire Jeff Kellogg said that was a swing. Strike 3. And 2 men stranded for the Cubs. 9th inning now. Matt Kemp will be coming up. He has a home run tonight. The Sears Tower in Chicago, no longer. Still pretty impressive, as is this ballpark, historic Wrigley Field. Kevin Gregg, the Cubs closer, comes on to pitch, the 6th pitcher of the night used by Lou Piniella's Cubs. He throws ball 1 to Matt Kemp, who's had 2 hits, including a home run. Gregg has had 8 saves and 9 save opportunities, although his other numbers are less than impressive. He does have more than a strikeout per inning. And the breaking ball, a strike on the outside.
You may ask yourself, well, why would Lou Piniella in an 8-2 game use his setup guy Carlos Marmol and Kevin Gregg as closer? Well, both pitched Friday. The Cubs have an off day on Monday before they play again Tuesday, and he just didn't want to let them sit for 3 days and not throw, so he has them throwing tonight to stay sharp, take tomorrow off, and be ready to go for Tuesday.
A lot of those short relievers, used to pitching maybe 1 inning at a time, stay a lot sharper if they are used regularly. And the Dodgers have their closer, and they have a game tomorrow night in LA. Jonathan Broxton is up. He has not worked since Thursday, and looks like Broxton's getting ready for the last half of the 9th inning. Matt Kemp hit a home run in the 3rd, a single in the 5th. He's 2 for 4. Mark Loretta, Jamie Hoffman to follow here in the 9th inning, and that's a called strike on the outside. 3-2. We were talking before the game with the general manager of the Dodgers, Ned Colletti, about the Manny Ramirez situation. Manny Ramirez, of course, was suspended for 50 games for the breaking the baseball rules in regards to the drug prevention and treatment program. And so Manny serving that suspension. He's eligible to come back on July the 3rd. That's barring any rainouts for the Dodgers between now and then that are not made up before then. But also, according to Ned Colletti, he is eligible to be able to go out on a rehab assignment as Kemp draws a walk here to start the 9th inning against Kevin Gregg. He could go to the minor leagues, and the Dodgers have said when he is going to go, and it would be to likely AAA. They have a ball club in Albuquerque in the Pacific Coast League, but that he would be eligible to go as early as 10 days before July the 3rd, although Colletti said it probably wouldn't be that far in advance, but they hadn't decided when exactly he would go out. For the time being, he's working out at Dodger Stadium every Monday through Saturday, and so that's Manny's program right now. But it's interesting because he is suspended, but he could play some games before that suspension is up in organized baseball in the minor leagues. And apparently that's something that was part of the collective bargaining agreement. But on the other hand, it seems like if he's playing even in AAA ball as part of a rehab, is he suspended or not?
Yeah, I think when you're suspended, you should be suspended. I mean, if you break a rule, then you're supposed to be suspended. I understand them saying that they want him to work his way back to get in shape for July 3rd, but I just don't understand how you can play an organized baseball if you're suspended. The minor league guys, when they're suspended, they're suspended. I mean, the minor leagues are part of the drug program with Major League Baseball. So if you're suspended from Major League Baseball, how can you play in minor league baseball, which is also part of the same program?
Well, that is the agreement, however, as a single to right for Loretta, his 2nd hit of the game, and Kemp goes to second. 2 men on with nobody out for the Dodgers here in the 9th inning. They have 12 hits now. J.C. Romero, relief pitcher of the Phillies, is serving a suspension, 50 games for the same reason. At the start of the season, he has not yet pitched in the big leagues this year, but he has been pitching in AAA, the so-called rehab assignment, beginning this past week.
Yeah, pitchers are allowed 16 days and position players 10 days. And the logic behind it is that it's a 50-game suspension. That if a player has to wait until the 50th game and then go on a rehab assignment and get himself back in game shape, then it really takes a 50-game suspension and turns it into a 55-game suspension or a 60-game suspension, depending on how long it takes the player to get ready to play. So that's why it was negotiated with the Players Association that 50 games means 50 games, and at that point the players should be game ready to participate back at the major league level.
Yeah, but are you obligated, or why is rehab is something that you're doing? I mean, the team is doing for you. I mean, my point is, July 3rd, he can come back and play if you got a 50-game suspension. Why is it said that you have to be able to have time to get ready by playing an organized baseball?
Yeah.
I mean, if you're suspended, if you broke the rules, I just don't quite understand this. You broke the rules, and they say you can come back July 3rd. Okay, you can come back July 3rd. That's the way I view it.
But it sounds like you're disappointed that they've kind of made it so easy to bend over backwards to make sure the guy is prepared and fully in shape to be able to go ahead and be able to come back right on that day without any other impediments. 2-2 the count to Jamie Hoffman.
Again,
strike three.
He broke the rules, right? I mean, I just find it difficult to see how you can play in the minor leagues, which is organized baseball, while you're suspended.
I think that the way it was negotiated, the reason it was that when the player did come back, that he wouldn't put himself in jeopardy at risk of getting hurt and ultimately impacting the team, because the team is penalized as well. And I think some may look at it and say, well, 50 games without pay for a guy making $25 million, he's been penalized quite a bit by sitting out the 50 days and the amount of money that it's cost him as well.
Well, although there are some who think that is not enough of a. Some actually members of the Baseball Players Association, other current players who were very adamant that they think that maybe the penalty should be even higher. 1 ball, 1 strike, the count to Andre Ethier, the pinch hitter here for Ramon Troncoso.
I mean, are you trying to stop it completely, or are you just trying to maintain a certain level of integrity?
I think it's gonna be tough to ever stop it completely. I think there will always be those guys cheating out there.
And that's the point. There's always going to be guys cheating. So if you're going to cheat, you should have to pay the penalty.
50 games isn't enough for you.
Well, 50 games is enough, yeah. I mean, in fact, when I was in part of the discussions years ago about how it should be, 50, 75, 100, whatever, I was part of that discussion. I think the 50 games is enough, personally. But I just don't see how you can go 10 games sooner and start working out in the minor leagues, because then it's a 40-game suspension. See, you're saying otherwise it's a 60 game. I'm saying otherwise it's a 40 game.
Although they're not impacting major league games by doing it, and they're not getting paid either.
But you are impacting major league games because you're playing in organized baseball in the minor leagues. So you're impacting organized baseball. Major League Baseball is not just Major League Baseball. It's the minor leagues. All of this is part of the system.
I think part of the thought process is when a player's on the disabled list, they allow him, he has to be on for 15 days, but they allow him to go out on a rehab assignment before he's activated in those 15 days and be able to play in minor league games. And even though he's not able to play at the major league level, I think the logic is the same.
Yeah, but you're talking apples and oranges. A guy got hurt doing his job, right? The other guy didn't get hurt doing his job.
Juan Pierre hits into the force play. Fontenot to Terrio. Last chance for the Cubs, last of the ninth, coming up. Weiner and John Buccigross. A lot of late inning drama around the major leagues today. LeBron James talks about his next move, and the Penguins and Red Wings Stanley Cup playoff finals, game 2. It's all on SportsCenter right after the game. And we are in the last half of the 9th inning. 40,091 the official paid crowd, and most of those 40,000 are no longer here at Wrigley as the hometown 9 is trailing 8-2. And Jonathan Broxton, the very hard throwing closer for the Dodgers. Look at those 24 innings pitched and 8 hits allowed, 37 strikeouts, monster numbers. Fontenot, the hitter, and a fastball at 98 miles an hour, strike 2 call.
There's no doubt the Dodgers bring power out of the bullpen. Now that in itself helps you in the playoffs. If you've got some power arms coming out of the bullpen in the playoffs, that puts you ahead of the game.
And the slider in the dirt. Fontenot is 0 for 3 in the game.
You know, it's interesting how far Jonathan Broxton has come. Last year, Takashi Saito was their closer. He ended up getting hurt. Broxton took the closer's role. But there was a point at the end of the year last year where Broxton said, well, who do you think is going to be the closer next year? And they're like, you are. What do you mean who's going to be the closer? He didn't quite understand the impact that he can have on a game with his arm and where he was headed in his career. He still thought, well, I'm just holding this closer role until somebody else takes it. It's yours, big guy.
He ended up with 14 saves last year while Saito was out. Here is Furcal. He still has that great arm, and Fontenot is 0 for 4. Our Chevrolet player of the game. And we're going to go with Eric Milton, the Dodgers starting pitcher. He went 5 1/3, 2 runs, 6 hits, 4 strikeouts. Chevrolet proud to recognize today's best and tomorrow's future, supporting youth baseball nationwide. And Eric Milton is looking pretty good for his second big league win since 2006. His 3rd start for the Dodgers. And it will be 2 wins this week for Eric Milton, who I'm sure at some point wondered if he'd ever throw another pitch in the big leagues again after the Tommy John surgery. Jake Fox, the rookie, who has struck out twice in this game since entering as a pinch hitter in the 5th inning.
Oh, man. See, that's not fair. I mean, if you sit there and you gear up for the fastball and he drops his slider right out there on the edge, I mean, you have no chance.
One out, nobody out. Fox hit .423 in AAA this year when they brought him up. And there's that 99-mile-an-hour fastball. See you later.
Well, but he didn't see pitches like that in AAA.
2 down. And Soriano coming off.
An outstanding effort for the Dodgers tonight from Eric Milton. Working ahead in the count in this game. 18 of 23 first pitch strikes. A steady diet of off-speed pitches. You see the curveball getting ahead in the count. Hitters looking for the fastball. And then he changes his approach, going to the changeup late in the count. That changeup that he said was the key to getting him back to the major leagues. The evolution of Eric Milton from a high fastball pitcher to an off-speed pitcher.
Alfonso Soriano fouling the slider away. Strike 1. The Dodger bullpen, and these are their 3 primary guys late in the game when they're ahead, usually in a tighter game than this. Belisario, Troncoso, and Broxton, the 3 of them so far 3 1/3 innings, no runs, and 4 strikeouts. Belisario, an inning and 2/3, no runs, 1 hit allowed, and threw 37 pitches while he was in there. Troncoso, a scoreless 8th inning, and now Broxton doing that thing that he seems to do so well. 98-mile-an-hour heat on the outside. Started with an 89-mile-an-hour slider, and then comes back with throwing flames. 0-2.
Joe, could you hit that?
Not today.
Wow.
0-2 the count. And he stays alive. He got that slider. The Cubs had a guy who is now a coach in the San Francisco Giants minor league system. who was big and strong and threw real hard. Lee Arthur Smith.
I've heard of him.
And he could bring it.
He could bring it.
He was an intimidator on the mound, too.
He was huge. I think, if anything, taller than Broxton. Broxton is a huge human being out there. 0-2. Slider, you're just off the outside.
Sure, Russell Martin is in the zip code as he set up off the plate on that one, way off the plate.
Soriano hit a double his last time. Has also drawn a walk in this game. He is the Cubs' home run leader. Has hit 12 big flies this year. Broxton, however, has not allowed a home run. He's hardly allowed a hit this year. And they struck him out with the high heat. That makes 39 strikeouts in 25 innings for Broxton. And although it was not a safe situation, this particular closer didn't seem to have any trouble gearing up for a very powerful ninth inning. So the Cubs lose to the Dodgers. The Dodgers still have not lost 3.